Communities in the border counties are facing new and unique challenges every day, from broadband provision and town centre decline to the pandemic and the ongoing impact of Brexit. Innovating Communities is a training programme that empowers communities to solve local challenges across Donegal, Leitrim, Sligo, Cavan, Monaghan and Louth. The programme will provide training in design thinking, a creative problem-solving process that puts people at the heart of the solution. Anything from helping young people access better job opportunities or social enterprises to strengthen their offer, to creating a local approach for tackling climate change. Once enrolled on a course, challengers will learn how to empathise with the people affected and to define the challenge being faced. The training team is led by community design specialists and local volunteers who will support challengers in developing and prototyping ideas in a creative and effective way, turning them into solutions that can work. Through the design thinking process, Innovating Communities will help teams of local people to tackle over 100 of the challenges that are most important to them, and create networks of people and projects to make change happen. We aim to involve over 900 people across the region, resulting in joined-up thinking to stimulate increased innovation both locally and across the 6 counties. Community life has changed phenomenally, and naturally we've all adapted quickly to new temporary ways of living. Let's make these changes work in the long term for our communities by tackling local challenges together. Design your future with your local community.
Ara a gnushla a cordial galir, but while I'm carfolja rove an a cod specialta show. Good morning, everybody. And welcome to the Aontas Theatre here in Monaghan. Those of you who travelled to be with us today, and those of us who are joining us via the World Wide Web on this camera, and hopefully on this camera later on as well. You're welcome too. A very, very special day, as you know, launching the Innovating Communities Learning Showcase. Very, very, very special day. My name is Ciaran Mullooly. I'm your host for today's proceedings, and we'll be hearing more later on throughout the afternoon. I suppose maybe a bit of audience research before we start. If you're from County Leitrim, put your hand up. Excellent. If you're from County Monaghan, put your hand up. Very good. If you're from Cavan, put your hand up. Donegal. Louth. Who did I forget, Gabriel? Sligo. What a week, ladies and gentlemen, we have had. What a week. What a tremendous week. What a lovely morning for starters. And what a great day to say goodbye to Zoom. Bye-bye, Zoom. You're on mute. No, not worried about it anymore. We're not worried about it. What a great week we've had. It's 7 days since the President of the United States left our shores. Went back to I think it's his holiday home that's in the States. His real home is over here. And what an occasion it was. What a great get-together. I was lucky enough on Wednesday to be at a conference in County Mayo, another leader project as it was. And there were some folks there from Ballina. You know what they told us, despite all you've heard? The phones are ringing. Bookings are coming in for accommodation in Ballina already. We spoke to somebody after the conference on Wednesday afternoon who told them they've been in touch about next summer booking a day. And there was so much talk about the trip and the event and everything else. But my brother lives in New York, and he told me, he said, you know what, he said, you sent 100 million postcards to us. Every night it was on the news, he said. Not always for the principal reasons of tourism in Ireland, but we saw the Moy, we saw the river, we saw the scenery, the occasion, the lighting. It was fabulous and a great get-together. And one other point about it as well that I talked about on Wednesday, talk about it today as well, this issue of the president and his age, this ageism that was going on last week, some of this talk about the President of the United States, our visitor. We had a chat about that on Wednesday. We were saying as well, you know, what did he do that was so wrong? What happened? Mentioned, didn't quite get the All Blacks out the right way, or mentioned something else here and there. Was that such a mistake? And on Sunday afternoon, I was driving into the border counties myself with my wife, who's a Cavan woman, in the car, and we turned on the radio, and a chap called Des Cahill came on from the RTÉ Radio Sports programme and invited us all to welcome him at that afternoon's programme. Where he was at Omagh, at Healy Park in Omagh. He said, good afternoon, you're very welcome. We're all here this afternoon to see Tyrone play Cavan in the Ulster Championship. And I looked around for a moment. My wife was very quick saying, we're not playing today, we're playing next weekend. And of course, you know, Monaghan were playing and didn't they do well in terms of finish of the game as well. So what? The moral of the story, we all make mistakes. And the person who tells them made a mistake made nothing. It still applies, ladies and gentlemen. We learn from that. And as you know, including Mr. Biden, who stood on the floor of the Dáil the next day and told us very clearly it was the All Blacks he was talking about. So we all learn from our mistakes. And the other point about people of that age, in my experience working in community development for over 35 years, it is the people who are over 65 years of age who bring more wisdom and more sense to many of our meetings and many of our activities. They're the people who've been there and done that, and they're very welcome to our events on a regular basis. Today, however, is that we're going to talk about innovating communities, and we're going to talk about the learning showcases, and we're going to talk about the work that's been done by the leader companies and by you in the community groups over the course of the last number of months. Going back to, I suppose, to the period of COVID and since then. This event is to showcase and celebrate the great achievements and successes of the programme over the past 3 years. The learning that has come from this programme will support further rural development in years to come. And we're delighted to share with you some of the projects and hear from the challengers who took part in the programme, as well as hear from the project stakeholders and the trainers who helped us all involved to achieve their overall goals. I'll stop there for a moment because I want to welcome somebody to the audience who's been involved in the programme. She's just flown in overnight to join us. Her name is Anna Gehan, and she came from Aachen in Germany. You're welcome, Anna. Put your hand up. There you go. You're very welcome to our conference, and I know you have built already some great ties with the people of Ardra in Donegal, and we hope to see more of that as we have in the past and the future. Ladies and gentlemen, the house rules for today, we're going to start now. We'll continue to 1 o'clock, but the good news, there will be 2 15-minute breaks, comfort breaks in that period. We're on a tight schedule today, so I'd ask all our speakers, if they can at all, to keep the very best of their time. And our event is split into 3 segments. So in this first slot, you will hear from Gabriel O'Connell, the Chief Executive Officer of Monaghan Integrated Development. You'll hear from the Minister for Rural and Community Development, Minister Heather Humphreys, TD. You'll hear from Desmond Burney, the Director of Ice Cream Architecture, who, as you know, led the training delivery in this programme. And Lara Schmidt, a participant from Louth who took part in the programme herself. We'll also give a taster of the projects that came from the Innovating Communities in Leader projects. And you will hear a bit of, I suppose, it's a digital day really. It's going to be a day when you're going to hear a lot and see a lot up there. There's nothing like a piece of video, as you know, to bring home what actually has happened. We're going to hear that today. A couple of house rules, if you may. I've just been reminded my own, turning off the phone, or perhaps turning off the speaker on the telephone. And just to encourage you to cooperate with that, if by chance your speaker is left on and it rings, I'm going down to ask you to sing a song in the audience. And if you think I'm joking, just leave on the speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to get a taster of the projects that came from the Innovating Communities in Leitrim, Louth and Donegal in our first section, with interviews from the participants here on the very attractive set, I must say. It's a bit like the Today Show or the Late Late Show, isn't it? Very attractive set. After we've heard from our speakers this morning, we'll have interviews with the participants and the trainers who will share their insights and their learnings. But it's a great pleasure for me to introduce our first speaker this morning. Would you please welcome Gabriel O'Connell, the Chief Executive Officer of Monaghan Integrated Development.
Thanks very much, Ciaran, and thanks very much for the little intro there on mistakes. We all make mistakes and faux pas, so you will excuse me in advance for many of them I'm probably going to make in the next few slides. And hopefully I'll leave nobody out in acknowledgements, etc. I just want to start by welcoming everybody this morning. Minister Humphreys in particular, the Minister was here for the launch of this project almost 3 years ago. So a big thank you, Minister, for coming back and showing the support in the project. We also want to welcome all the public representatives here today, LAG members, local authority colleagues, distinguished guests, and I suppose our innovating community partners who have invested time in this project over the last 2.5 years. So on behalf of the 6 local development companies involved, we want to welcome everybody here and hope that you enjoy the short presentations. I should have introduced myself, just Gabriel O'Connell, CEO of Monaghan Integrated Development. We're the lead partner on the project, coordinating the project on behalf of the other 5 partners. which is Louth, Donegal, Cavan, Leitrim and Sligo. And I also want to say a particular welcome to, I think we have over 60 online leader local development companies from across Europe joining us as of yesterday evening. That could be more today. And again, as we know, and we're always encouraged in the leader programme to share the learning, whether it's good, bad or indifferent, share it, because we can then use that learning right across Europe to make leader a better programme and more responsive to the local community. Okay, I just want to go on. I just want to mention, first of all, leader cooperation. The leader programme, one of the measures in the leader cooperation is leader cooperation, and it allows local development companies and the local action groups to work collaboratively within their country or across the other European countries. So interterritorial or transnational. And the aim is for leader groups to share their learning, their knowledge and their skills, and to work collaboratively across the regions on innovative projects. So that was the stimulus, if you like, for innovating communities. We also heard over the last few years at European and at national level also the need for leader to be innovative and to drive innovation at local level. So again, partners here in the border region, the 6 local development companies, with the assistance of their LAGs, rose to this challenge, and Innovating Communities was born. So just in late 2020, 6 local development companies looked at this proposition. We put our heads together. We have a picture there. We done a visit to a similar project in Steyr in Austria. And there we have a workshop that happened in Austria with our colleagues there, the leader companies in Steyr. And we want to say a big thank you to them as well. They were running a similar pilot, and we learned quite a bit from that. Just on a general point to say, leader cooperation and the Innovating Communities project is very well aligned with the EU long-term vision for rural areas. We're starting to hear a lot about that now coming out of at European level. Will be in the next leader programme and in the CAP generally. And, you know, the need to involve more stakeholders in the leader process is a strong driver. And that together, in the EU vision for rural areas, that we're looking for stronger, better connected, more prosperous and more resilient communities. So that's something that certainly Innovating Communities was very much aligned with. Project requirements, just very early on, we set ourselves some challenges here. How can we help local communities to innovate better? We wanted to provide a toolbox of skills to problem solve more effectively. And how do we encourage more innovative and user-oriented solutions in the implementation of the local development strategies? In other words, we don't want the same old, same old. Leader is very mature, is over 30 years old. Society is changing. Our rural areas are massively changing. Our challenges in society are changing. So we all have to respond. Our programs have to respond, and the way we implement them have to respond. So how can we encourage new actors in leader? And certainly the extra people or the different profile of people that we got involved through Innovating Communities. We had an awful lot of young people got involved and got very enthusiastic about the project. We had people who were from a rural area, but they were away either studying or working in urban areas and may not have been able to get back to community meetings and things like that, but wanted to be involved in their development of their community, and they got a great opportunity to do that. So a key goal was to build the capacity of the communities to innovate and embrace opportunities. So look, there is a tendency in community development for us to talk about the needs, and needs change over time. That's the reality. And I suppose in Leader, when we do our public consultation at the beginning of a 5 or 7 year cycle in Leader, you know, we get a picture of what the needs are then. But the reality is needs change very, very quickly and evolve very quickly. So Innovating Communities was a great opportunity to keep tic-tacking with our communities. What are the challenges out there? Tell us about those challenges, and we'll support you and train you to deal with those challenges. Okay, next slide. Okay, so Innovating Community was born, and effectively it's a problem-solving tool. It's as simple as that. There's a bit of fancy language around design thinking and person-centred design and things like that, but effectively it was about how do we solve problems more effectively in a systematic way. So design thinking encourages organisations to focus on the people that they're creating for, which leads to better products, services and internal processes. And design thinking was born, I suppose, in the industry and commercial sphere, and it's really about don't design a product and try and sell it and people tell you, well, I would have done it different. You ask people and you consult them along the journey. So we've applied that principle within community development, and it's well aligned with community development. So the project aims to strengthen the resilience, local development, community action by training groups, businesses and individuals in that process. So just very quickly to walk you through the process there, Innovating Communities invited local people to submit their needs in the form of challenges. We changed the language to challenges, and we asked them to put them up on a web-based challenge project bank. Then from there, other people will come along, see the challenges, and if they like it, or perhaps they want to get involved with it, they can support it there and indicate their support online or join the challenge. And then based on that level of interest, we will then decide at county level whether we'll turn that into a training and a capacity building course. So that's worked really well. It's very democratic, and if the public support is there for a project, it gets supported by the funder. That's the key principle. So I suppose the training approach also builds capabilities to cope with the future challenges and opportunities. So we had groups working on specific projects, but we're also building the capacity and skills of people to deal with challenges. That's a key aspect. So again, that was just a little bit of a graphic there of design thinking can help communities solve challenges collaboratively. And it's by understanding the context in an area of a problem or a challenge, collaboration with stakeholders, getting relevant people together. Questioning assumptions is a really important one, because what maybe the promoter of the challenge might have thought was a real challenge mightn't have been a challenge at all when 10 or 12 people get looking at it. And I suppose emphasising with people, doing the local research, and the concept of co-creation is something that's kind of creeping into all our programs, and bringing key stakeholders together to co-create and not just provide for them, but to involve them in the preparation. Getting under the skin of the clients who are coming forward with the challenge and saying, well, what do you really mean by this challenge or this need? Spotting opportunities in the process as well, and really looking for the opportunities in the challenge or in the need. I suppose prototyping ideas, being able to have a go at the solutions, asking the difficult questions, trying things out, and bringing form to the ideas and testing and refining. So look at that's the general process that happened in each of the training courses. So what kind of outcome came out of those? So we see a youth group here and a disability group. So you're building the capabilities to work in design thinking, to expand the issues and resolutions. You're building relationships locally that might not have been there before, and an idea for projects, as I said, can come from the learning and from the new skills. Research and analysis skills, citizen science skills. You know, we in Ireland and in the border counties, we have a great reputation for strong rural development and community development down through the years. But we hear all the time that a lot of our community groups, the profile is getting older. We need to keep young people involved. So, you know, understanding these things and turning them into needs analysis and citizen science is very important. Young people can understand the approaches as well. Okay, so I suppose a couple of general points there. Capacity for local innovation needs to be supported and developed with suitable tools. And look, it just so happens the tool we used in this project was a tool called design thinking. There are other tools as well. So it's just the idea is a tool to be able to put a framework in place to support the group. I suppose we find it's not sufficient to survey people about their needs anymore. They really need to be involved in the solutions and been part of the solution. I look at that's a general community development principle that we kind of all aspire to in community development, but it has been reinforced really in the Innovating Communities. I suppose such engagement tools could become part of the toolbox of approaches in local and rural development going forward. Smart Villages is a new objective in the next LEADER programme, and certainly we think Smart Villages, Innovating Communities and Design Thinking could be a really useful tool for that. So how are we doing so far? We're coming here to the end of the almost 3-year programme. We had target, as Ciaran mentioned at the beginning there in the video, active participants of just around the 924 to be precise, is what we targeted for. At this point, we've 1,360 people across the 6 counties who have trained and have been active participants in design thinking in the Innovating Communities project. And the training hours there, again, over 3,092 training hours. So look at, I think it's fair to say we're very happy at this point in time in the outcome. The project evaluators, Brendan O'Keefe and Karen Keaveney, are here with us. They've been with the project from day one, looking at how we're doing it. It's almost a longitudinal study approach of it. And they will give you a sense of their findings to date later on, so I'll not go into any more detail on that. Just a couple of quick acknowledgements before I finish. The 6 local action groups across the border region for approving the projects for funding under the cooperation measure. Thanks to everybody. The Department of Rural and Community Development, the LEADER unit, for their support, help and assistance with the project. Dimna Harney, Principal Officer on our team. I think now Dimna is with us today. So big thanks to Dimna and the staff just for making the process seamless and working well. All the 6 local development companies, our boards and staff who embedded the project in their community development activities, both in LEADER and in SICAP and in other programs, all bought into the Innovating Communities method. So that's working really well. Thank you to the volunteer co-trainers. One of the unique features of the project was we brought in and contracted Ice Cream Architecture, who is a professional training company in design thinking. But we also had volunteer trainers working alongside them, delivering the training to ensure there was a legacy in the communities when the training was finished. So that's worked really well. You'll hear from some of the volunteer co-trainers later on. Also want to thank Southwest College as our academic partner to help us early on in the design of the training aspects, so that was very, very useful. And thanks to Desmond Burney and his team in Ice Cream Architecture, which I've mentioned, and the evaluators, Brendan and Karen, who I've mentioned. I also want to mention this lady here, Colette McEntee, who was the project coordinator, who was the life and soul of the cooperation project. And as you can see and hear, Colette was very popular. She drove all the 6 counties and the 6 CEOs and all the people working on the project and kept us on focus. Sometimes when projects run over a few years, a bit of fatigue comes into the process, but she made sure we kept going. And Colette has just finished on the project there recently. So thank you very much, Colette, for your hard work. Key learning for us, and as I said, Brendan and Karen will be doing the academic insights looking at this. But for us as the 6 partners, I suppose what we found was design thinking fits very well with the LEADER developmental approach, with the Smart Village objectives and with the long-term vision for rural areas. And I know the European Commission is quite interested in this as well. And Ioana Listowan from the LEADER unit in DG Agri will be joining us virtually later on and has expressed quite an interest in this in terms of tools for smart villages. Design thinking methods then we found adds value and strengthens the bottom-up approach and enhances the co-design principle. So you're really involving people, allowing their voices to be heard in the work that's going to be undertaken. For many, the training was about learning design thinking methods and understanding how design thinking tools work and how you can analyse a problem and look at it maybe in a more positive light. For other groups, they already had a project or a challenge in mind, and they grasped the Innovating Communities training and design thinking and used it as a tool to turn their project idea into a reality. So we had two types of audience there in the project. The project provided high levels of support to local groups and would-be innovators to move more confidently and creatively. So that's the thing we found as well, that you need to be careful introducing online tools and technical language when you're sitting down with groups of people, mixed abilities, etc. Everybody has to be comfortable with the process. So that's something that the trainers were very, very careful on. And as I mentioned earlier, the Innovating Communities process is very democratic. Only projects that have public support in a respective county get the go-ahead and are delivered. Okay, Ciaran, back to you. Thanks very much, and I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the session.
My name is Carol McGowan. I live in Kiltyclogher in County Leitrim, and I was involved in the Designing Kiltyclogher's Future project with Innovating Communities. Innovating Communities was a project that allowed a group of us from the village to come together to determine a wish list of sorts for the village, and also to reach out to members of the community who may not have had a voice before this, and to see how we can advance the community with its facilities and what people really wanted to achieve in years to come. During the course, we spoke about the fact that we would love to encourage people to come to the village to start up their own little businesses. And at the time, during the lockdown, there was a lot of people unemployed and whatnot, and I was one of those people. So I decided, why not become one of those people that would actually utilise what we were speaking about within the programme. And I set up a little craft business that created a little product that caught the imagination of people, and it was a little memorial robin, and it became a very successful little project, and I went on to employ 3 people part-time as a result. During the course, it highlighted a lot of very positive aspects that we may not have actually seen as positive before this, which included some of the buildings that weren't being utilised, and suddenly they became opportunities instead of maybe eyesores. One of the things that we discovered on the programme was that if you almost reverse engineer an idea, suddenly the how-tos become less important and the let's do it becomes the more important thing. I definitely think that Designing Kiltyclogher's Future has further steps and definite further scope. We already have a lovely tourist market here, but we need to expand on that and create all the ancillary services to support it, the coffee shops, the gift shops. These are all things that are definitely on the wish list, but it's how to achieve them. With Innovating Communities, there is a vastly bigger opportunity there for us to reach out to other communities, and maybe on a quarterly basis that we could have a meeting with other groups that are trying to achieve similar things to us, or maybe have actually done it and show us how to do it.
My name is Jenny O'Hara, and we're in Fina Visitor Centre in Fina, and the project is the Ballinamore to Mohill Greenway. The trail used to be a narrow gauge railway. We're aiming to develop the Greenway as close to that narrow gauge as is possible. Locally, people who are old enough to have been around when it was a working narrow gauge are said to have heard the whistle, which is the whistle of the train, and that's seen kind of as a sign of respect of people locally, but also a great way of getting people talking about how they use the train to get to and from local towns. I would describe design thinking as a great way of setting out a problem, picking it apart and then working collaboratively to come up with different solutions that from that come out as a project. I think some of the benefits from the project have been the networking with different local groups. So we've worked with the local development companies, but we've also reached out and built links between development companies that don't usually work together. We had a great community outreach event. We had a Christmas fair at the visitor centre where we have a soft play area. So we had lots of children around, and we did a graffiti board survey where we asked children how they currently travel and how they would like to travel, to find out if cycling and walking and active travel were part of their aspirations. And we found overwhelmingly that they would love to cycle and walk more. We hope to bring the historical parts of the trail to light using different innovative ways. So we're hoping to do an oral histories project in the county, finding people's first-hand tales of how they used the railway or how they saw it go into disuse. And I think keeping that history alive, not just cementing a path that's new, but bringing in how that was used before and showing how travel and our use of the environment changes, is a great way of getting a wider array of people involved in the project.
Okay, good morning everyone, and can I just say I'm delighted to be here at the Innovating Centre in Castleblaney for the first ever Innovating Communities Leader Learning Conference. And as Minister for Rural and Community Development, I'm very pleased that my department was able to support this initiative with funding of almost €1.1 million under the Leader programme. I want to particularly welcome participants here today from across the European Union, as well as those involved in community projects from counties Monaghan, Cavan, Donegal, Leitrim, Sligo and Louth. And it's great to be today to be joined by the staff of the leader companies in these 6 border counties, as well as the local action group members, community group representatives and local councillors. And this particular project is the first of its kind in the 30-year history of Leader. And over the course of those 3 decades, the Leader programme really has played a central role in supporting and shaping thousands of communities across rural Ireland. In fact, I believe each and every corner of Ireland has benefited from the support of Leader since its inception in 1991. So today's conference is very much about building on the success of Leader to date. It's about collaborating and it's about sharing ideas. It's about working together, building resilience and fostering that sense of leadership that we all know is alive and well in communities throughout the border region. By doing so, our communities will be in a strong position to capitalise on the many opportunities that are available to them. And more importantly, they will be well equipped to tackle the challenges that they face. Challenges that exist right across the European Union and beyond: climate change, rural depopulation, vacancy and dereliction, rural unemployment, and more recently, the instability caused by Brexit and, of course, the horrific war that continues to unfold in Ukraine. And I know that a central component of the Innovating Communities Programme is design thinking. So in practical terms, it's about putting people and communities in the driving seat when it comes to solving problems and finding solutions. And by doing so, you are connecting and involving people who live and work in our border region. You're empowering them to contribute to the future development of their rural area. This partnership approach is the most effective way of achieving success. I really believe that the next few years are an exciting time for those involved in delivering the new Leader programme. As you know, my department has opened expressions of interest, and I'm inviting groups and companies from across Ireland to positively engage in that process. And if we have learned one thing from the past 30 years, it's that we get better results by working together. But above all, by adopting this positive and collaborative approach, it's our communities that will reap the benefits. As with the previous programmes, the next Leader programme will yet again play a key role in enhancing the participation of local communities in shaping their future and building collective leadership and resilience in the border region. The project being showcased here today is exactly the kind of initiative that we want to see replicated right across rural Ireland. It will not alone enhance the social and cultural capital of rural communities, but it will also improve the quality of life for families living in border areas. This project owes its success to the participation of the likes of Monaghan, Louth, Leitrim, Sligo, Donegal and Cavan, all of whom, as I said, are well represented today. I really do want to acknowledge and thank their implementing partners, particularly Monaghan Integrated Development, who are the lead partner on this particular initiative. And I think you have to be congratulated for achieving 1,364 participants against a target of just over 900. So I really would like to thank those who provide so much support to your local community in developing and delivering worthwhile projects, something I know is very much acknowledged and appreciated by the communities themselves. And finally, I want to acknowledge the work of the fantastic team here at the Innovating Centre. Thank you for hosting us today. So thank you once again for inviting me to see firsthand the results of this important project, and I hope you will all enjoy the discussions that follow. It's very interesting to see the contributions from Kilty Clogher and from Ballinamore on their experiences to date. And again, it's about using our assets, using our old buildings, repurposing, look at what we have, repurpose it for 21st century use. So thanks once again, and enjoy the rest of the day. For a mil maith.
My name is Anne Lennon. I'm from Artna Livery, RD, which is about 3 kilometres as the crow flies from where we're standing here on our bog, which is known as the Great Bog of RD. Our project is aimed at reconstituting a spent bog, and our goal or our aim is to raise awareness about the importance of bogs. Well, the Innovating Programme came on board at a perfect time for us, and it's a 10-week programme. We joined from different places because it was under COVID restrictions at the time. They were very innovative, if you'll pardon the pun, in how they engaged us, because they were able to do Zoom and webinars. My opinion on it, and I think others agreed with me, it was a terrific experience, a very positive experience. We knew what our project was to be about. We knew what we wanted to do, but we really didn't have ourselves organised or structured. It's like having a jigsaw puzzle and it was all over in a muddle on the table. And Innovating Communities helped us pick up each piece of the jigsaw puzzle and put it together so we could find our way, and it guided us and we got our plan. The group came up with this innovative idea, and their innovative idea was to have this thing called a bog cafe. We got this amazing premises for free in RD, serving tea and coffee and homemade cakes and buns. But coming over a 3-day period, we had huge amount of cultural and environmental events, because we had Louth Barn Owl, we had Birdwatch Ireland, we had the Wildlife Trust. So we had a huge range of environmental speakers come in and do talks and presentations. And we had fermentation workshop, and overall the entire 3 days of a bog cafe was a total success. So much so, people are at us to run it again next year. With Innovating Communities, they helped us to structure a plan. They seemed to have prompts for us when we got stuck. We would not be this structured and this cohesive and organised if we didn't have that 10-week course. We are actually, connecting with other communities based on the courage or the confidence we got when we were doing Innovating Communities. And it is hugely beneficial to us, because we feel good when we're able to give information to other people to save them having to work too hard to get what we got. I do feel if they knew what Innovating Communities could do for them, they would jump at the chance. But they have to know how good it is first to actually take that step and join.
My name is Vivian Byrne. I'm a visual artist, and we're here in Eightfold Studios, part of the Barrow Ground Collective, which was part of our Innovating Communities. We are an artist studio space. We had been searching for studio space for must be nearly 3 years. Innovating Communities were very helpful because it gave us a system and a place where we could meet every week, gel the group, talk about what kind of studios we wanted and really focus us on what we were trying to find and what we needed. And we had the help of Luke, the facilitator, who helped tease out what our concerns were. I think that the Innovating Communities and design thinking jam boards and different techniques were very beneficial because they allowed you anonymously kind of really express how you felt or what you thought or what your needs were, and I think that was very, very helpful.
My name is Dee Walsh. I'm an artist from Drogheda. The programme helped us kind of take steps with the design thinking, with the jam boards, with the different kind of activities that we did online. Kind of allowed us to take steps to slowly build a concrete idea of what we wanted, how we would also run the studios, the governance of the studios, even thinking and considering the new name for the studios, because we knew we kind of wanted a new name, and it just gave us that space to consider all these different options. The likes of like Innovating Communities or design thinking will allow those communities to grow, and I do think that the border region is going to grow a lot more, and it's just given the communities a voice, and even if it's a small group, that they have a space to go to where they can kind of form their opinions and form their goals.
Good morning. We set out to support communities across the southern border region to use design thinking. And we've had a few descriptions today, but design thinking in its simplest format is a method of solving problems that puts people at the heart of the solutions. And if you think about problem solving as an A to B journey, design thinking is kind of everything in between. So it gives us a route map and a way to move forward, to move from that challenge on one side to the solution on the other. It gives us the tools and the skills and the confidence to get to that solution. And in the context of Innovating Communities, a kind of very straightforward example is one from Ballinamore in County Leitrim. And this was where we worked with a group of young people who told us that there was a lack of facilities in their local area for young people. And through the process, we kind of opened up the conversations to stakeholders in the local community. And we worked with different facilities in the area. And one of whom told us that actually they were looking to engage more with young people and to improve their services. So over the course of the project, and a very intensive it was one of our quickest courses, we worked to develop up a proposal with the facility and the young people about how the Youth Hub could move forward. So that's just a very straightforward example. There's lots more, as you've seen some of them today, and there's lots more to come as well, and lots of really innovative communities that have been working hard over the last few years. But today I really want to talk to you about why design thinking is relevant for rural communities and why it's so effective. Firstly, our rural communities are diverse in terms of our people. No two people are the same, and if anything, we all kind of start to look at things from a very different perspective, especially at first glance. And design thinking gives us a kind of universal language that we can come together quite quickly, that's focused on people, and it gets us moving quickly towards working out and working through that journey towards the solution. But it's not just the diversity of our people, it's also in our places. Our towns and villages and our rural hinterlands, they're all different and they all have a unique set of attributes. And this gives us lots of difference, but it also makes it very tricky in terms of the different types of solutions that need to be fixed. And what design thinking does is it gives us a very adaptable approach, and that allows us to work through the many and millions of challenges that we face in local communities. It's also very flexible process that ensures momentum. And I think this is particularly relevant to rural communities where we're really reliant on volunteer-led time and capacity. And the responsiveness of design thinking allows us to do things in a way that isn't just a series of steps that have to happen in a sequence. It's very much a back and forth process that moves and responds to the needs of the local communities that we're working with. So with that in mind, I wanted to put it out, a wee test, and Ciaran did a nice re-rehearsal for this in terms of a hands up earlier on. But if we could have the house lights up just quickly, I wanted to put it out to the audience here, just to see very quickly if this question, if this resonates with you, if you could just put your hand up really quickly, if you've ever wanted to make a change in your community, at any point. Very good, I don't see any hands that aren't down. If you can keep them there, yeah, too quick to drop your hands, guys. If you can keep them there just for my next question, were you certain that others in your community would support your change? So immediately when you thought of it, right, okay, lots of hands going down. Okay, so there's a few hands still up there, so they carried on. The last question, did you know exactly what to do to get the change started? Okay, I think everyone's hands down. That's not so surprising, and actually that's what we heard a lot of when we spoke to different communities. They all want to do stuff. There's a real willingness to make change. But actually, it's those first steps when they're thinking about it. And that's exactly where Innovating Community has come in. What we've tried to do is to give people the confidence and the understanding about how to develop these challenges together. So working collaboratively to make a change. So over the course of the project, we worked up, we initially, as Gabriel mentioned, we had a challenge bank that was a public call for people to put forward the challenges that they thought the project could fix. And we had 182 local challenges on the website. And we also trained up 38 volunteer co-trainers. And at the start, during lockdown, it was a little bit like a community-based Tinder, because we were bringing people together who, in a lot of cases, didn't even know each other. We had a few awkward introductions and lots of technical glitches, actually. But we got there, and we really worked through the conversations, and they developed into active groups who were working together to support their community. Over the course of the project, we worked with 133 different challenge teams. And though it was a training program, in parallel to the training, we also, the groups were kind of taking a learning by doing approach, where they were developing up outputs as they were doing the training. And there was a huge amount of different ways that they worked. Some developed websites, some looked at poster campaigns, others were developing public events. Towards the end of the courses then, they were presenting their solutions at community events or to stakeholders. And we had lots of different public engagement methods that the teams could use. And over the course of the project, and actually just to say as well that added value was intrinsic to each of the training teams, and it's still there and it's still active today in terms of the groups that are working away. But just to highlight the adaptability of design thinking within the project, these are the kind of core themes that we worked up the challenges, and each square represents the amount of challenges that affected that theme or that impacted on that theme. So it was right from social enterprise through to smart villages, and worked lots with youth development and local services, health and wellbeing. There were lots of different challenge themes that we addressed through the project. But that really highlights just how adaptable design thinking can be for rural communities. So it was a project that ran at scale to design, or to support people in design thinking. And now we have a connected body of people who are working actively using these techniques and able to transfer those skills forward. So there's been a huge amount of cooperation and also input across the region. So I hope today does that justice, and you can see the valuable input that challengers and the teams across the region have put in. Thank you very much.
I'm Ellen Griffin. I'm a transition year student here at Loretto Secondary School in Letterkenny. Our Innovating Communities project was based on the environment, but we decided to narrow down within the waste problem in our school, as it is a massive issue, not just in our school but around our community. We decided to start smaller, start within the school, and then we are planning on furthering the project towards our community and our local environment. So first of all, we conducted surveys within the class to try and figure out what project we wanted to do, and that was the initial figuring out sort of stage. And then we moved on, after we had figured out our theme based on the environment, we moved on to conducting a survey throughout the whole school. So it was optional, people could fill it in if they wanted to, and we gained results from that, and we got the opinions of the students in the school, and they told us what they wanted us to do based on the environment and based on the waste problems. Furthering that, we conducted an interview with one of our caretakers, John, who told us that the biggest problem was around our football pitch with waste around there. That was kind of the basis of our research, and then we built from that. The main skill that I think we learned during the course was teamwork skills. We worked together the whole time, a group of 27 students in our class. We all worked together conducting the surveys, but we also learned the skills of compromisation. So we compromised within each other, and we all had our own opinions, we all gave our own opinions, and we all decided in a democratic way what we wanted to do, which I think will be very useful for future, for office workplaces or for anywhere generally.
My name is Mairead Boyle, and I work here in Loretto Secondary School in Letterkenny. I'm the transition year coordinator in the school. Well, I feel this programme, the Innovating Communities Programme, has been a great benefit to our students to develop problem-solving skills and to work collaboratively and become more solution-based, which I think is very useful for them, not just now, but in third level and going forward into the future for any jobs or any helping in communities that they may be doing.
I'm Simon Canning. I work with the DLDC, which is the Donegal Local Development Company, as the project coordinator delivering out on the Innovating Communities project. Well, here in Donegal, we've looked at a wide range of projects. We have recreation corridors, we have youth services in Bundoran, we have shared visions in Dunfanaghy. Our DRA are looking at the way forward from an environmental perspective for their whole community. The programme as a whole has been excellent and very wide-ranging in terms of delivering brand new ways of the community working together and looking for the future. We've actually created almost new communities as well. If I take the recreation corridor as an example, where people who have a vested interest in a span of area between Ballybofey and Donegal Town have actually came together to make it better. Undoubtedly, the design thinking training process has helped our communities. Double Diamond that's utilised throughout the process, where people opened up their minds and considered and empathised with others. That allowed the people to work together, taking into consideration everyone's ideas and finding a common theme to move forward on.
So my name is Paul McMenamin. I've been involved in the Innovating Community project since the start when we went through the training course. And our project was about developing a recreation corridor between the towns of Ballybofey, Stranorder and Donegal Town through Barnesmore Gap. The project is an ongoing project. I think it's fair to say that when we first got involved with Innovating Communities, I think very early on in the training courses, which were facilitated by Des from Innovating Communities, the message was, I'm here to provide you with the tools and the skills that you need to make it a successful project through innovating the communities that are involved. We identified that there was three communities. There was the people that lived in and around Barnesmore Gap, where the recreation corridor would run through, and also you have the people that would come from Donegal Town, and also people from Ballybofey, Stranorder. We actually held question and answer work groups and surveys. It was surprising when we were out speaking to people how much they appreciated that we were asking them. We're not finished our project yet, because what we're doing now is we're actually starting to use those tools now to drill down into the smaller elements of what we see to be a bigger project of developing this recreation corridor. We're at a stage now where we're looking to pull together sort of a master plan of all the type of things that we would like to take forward now under the banner of the Ballybofey, Stranorder, Donegal Town Recreation Corridor Group.
Hi, good morning everyone. My name is Laura Schmidt. I come from Dundalk, County Louth, and participated in the Innovating Communities Design Thinking to start a community garden in Dundalk. The journey to get where, as a group, we are here actually started in 2019. Later that year, I was diagnosed with cancer, stage 3. And as the COVID started, so did my fight to live and to survive start as well. And by the spring of 20, I was in cocooning, closed in a house, couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything, couldn't hold a job. And like many others, we started walking, we started working in the gardens, looking around, what else can we do, but keeping that 2-meter distance. And it took a year, really, to recover from everything and get back on my feet. And by the spring, summer of 21, I started toying with the idea to start a community garden. I looked around the Dundalk, I asked the people the question, and I was pointed to Louth Leader and to Derville Clark, and she helped me out to set up the group and set it up on the website as well, put it in a bank, and that's when the real work started, because like so many before me said, it's a process. You need to find like-minded people, people who believe in the idea and want to work, and it's a democratic process. You have to hear out everybody as well. By the time of January 2022, we started. We had 33 people registered. We met and we started using Zoom. Can you hear me? Can I share? Is the sound off? Yeah, that was us. 2 hours a week for 10 weeks, blended learning. Finally, we did meet in the end. There's Rachel Kelly with us. Our very first meeting in the room with Louth Leader, and start hashing out what do we really want, how are we going to go about it, who are our stakeholders, what does community want, how do they feel about it. We learned about ourselves, we learned our strengths, our weaknesses, distilled the idea of the community garden, and decided to put a survey out there and do a community engagement day. Just to show you how crazy it can get with the jam boards, I think everybody's familiar with them. This all turned in the end into a fun day in front of the Marshes shopping center. This is the concepts and aims that came out of it. We wanted universal design to cover all the people, all the groups, and all the stakeholders. We wanted to cover people and children with special needs, have them experience nature, support local businesses, be inclusive, have public access, support green cities, 15-minute cities, walking, cycling, pedestrian corridors, public transport, everything that's probably coming down the pipeline anyways. Soon after that, the objectives came. Community garden in Dundalk post-COVID. Bring people with similar interests together. Learn how to organize ourselves. Those are all of the objectives that Innovating Communities in Design Thinking really helped us to come about. This is our information day. We organized the paper survey to ask our community, how do they feel? What do they think? Do we even need community gardening in town? We got overwhelming support and overwhelming positive experience from that. We put out a big map and asked everyone, where would you like to have the community garden? The learning that came out of this. We engaged with Louth County Council, with city and town stakeholders, the group came together with all their skills, knowledge, and expertise. We have people who are landscapers, professional architects, graphic designers, computer IT professionals, people with all sorts of backgrounds. We started our group, we had the founding meeting post-community engagement, and created our constitution. And today, I'm happy to say, almost a year since last April, we are having first AGM meeting next week. We open a bank account. We got insurance sorted. And we will be signing a license agreement. And we got a piece of land to start our community garden. So what happens next? Like a lot of people said before, it is a journey. It doesn't stop. There are other things to do. Keep working in the community. And I would like to take the opportunity to thank Louth Leader, County Council, Derville, Dara McGowan, and Rachel Kelly for all the support that we got. And of course, I'd like to mention Grace Higgins and everybody in my community group for supporting us and helping us to get where we are. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lara. And you can join us on the couch. Ladies and gentlemen, you got a snapshot there. The videos are really excellent. To get a snapshot of what's going on. Our job now in the next few moments is to have a little look at the design of this training, the design of this process, and look at the legacy it's given, and maybe talk about the future. Give Lara a chance to get her breath. Talk to you, Des, first. I mean, I've been involved, like a lot of people here, in community development for over 30 years. The old way was you appointed a consultant to do an area action plan. That person came into the town, and they kind of nudged and pushed you, but they proposed suggestions. What's different here, and what part of this is transferable for the future, this design stuff?
Well, it is... yeah, definitely. It is a little bit of a different process maybe than the traditional route, in that it's putting people and communities in the driving seat, I suppose, for coming up with the means and the direction they want to go. And certainly, I think that's incredibly important for community projects, is to get everyone around the table and to make sure that they all have a say in it. Because in innovating communities, but also in design thinking, we can't leave people behind. And as soon as you do that, you kind of end up making more challenges. So I think that's one of the key things to bring forward into future projects.
But what if the public are not responding? Well, let's talk, I'm going to be negative for a moment, the apathy. How do you push these people into the rooms to take their own fate in their own hands?
Well, I do think there's a huge amount of positivity to do things, and it is about mapping it out and giving them the opportunity to do it and to speak openly. So there's a set of processes that we can use through design thinking to get them into that. And I think that probably the secret ingredient almost is about momentum, to make sure that there's momentum built into the process, and that people know that something is happening. Otherwise, we're going to lose people quite quickly if things don't feel like they're moving ahead. So I mentioned about how flexible the process can be, and that's so that people can move forward and backwards and be responsive to the process that they're on. But we need momentum to keep people in it.
Lara, tell the truth. On the first day, did you think it was going to work out? When you met?
No. You have so many people in the room, so many ideas, and there is an overwhelming sense that if I don't engage them, if I don't engage myself, it's not going to work. They might not share the same things as me. What came out of it is that you get a really, really strong group of people sharing the same passion, same idea.
Did you motivate many of those people that day?
I walked September and October with the flyers in my hands around the town, selling the idea, or to anyone who wanted to listen, trying to get participants, trying to talk to, engage the community, learn about my community and where I live. I'm a recent transplant to Ireland. I've been living here for 6 years. So it's not just immediate surroundings, it's all other communities in your community.
I'm going to chat about this, by the way, later on today. The positivity of blow-ins in community development. It's a good trend, guys. Sometimes it is nice to have somebody.
I learned that word. I know what the blow-in is.
Besides, you would know. Gabriel is here beside me. Gabriel, so what's your opinion in terms of the benefits for the border region from this? And so specifically, what about the future? Where are we going to go with this now in terms of community development?
Yeah, I suppose the border region has particular challenges. The Minister referred to them earlier. You know, the uncertainty of Brexit was something we wrote about and were very, very focused on when we started planning for the project. And how we can energise our community to be responsive. I mean, in counties like Monaghan and all the border counties, we always talk about the entrepreneurial nature of our people, and indeed the community sector is very entrepreneurial. But the challenges are overwhelming now in society. You know, COVID was just a little blip that reminded us that there is, no matter what your plans and aspirations are, you know, we can stop you in your tracks and you have to be prepared to respond. So I think community resilience is a really, really important thing. And it, unfortunately, is one of these things that's maybe left on the back burner. You hope a community would be resilient, but you don't know until it's tested.
But it has worked. I mean, we've seen the projects. It's fantastic. So what's the new ingredient that's in this project that makes it work?
I think the new ingredient is giving people who may not have had the confidence to have a voice, to give them the opportunities to have a voice. And some of that is around the tools, some of it is around the method of design thinking, but you are bringing non-traditional people. You're not just working with a set number of community groups that are there doing maybe very focused work. This is more wider, it's more broader, and it's given a bigger community a voice.
Minister Humphreys here beside us. I mean, it's a long time ago since, was it Jacques Delors or somebody who talked about the way to do things right was to work from the bottom up. Subsidiarity, I think, was the phrase he talked about, that the decisions must be made at local level. So from your perspective, I suppose, what's your opinion in terms of how this approach can bring a positive impact in the future?
Yeah, well, I think the best approach has always been bottom up. And I go around, I have the pleasure of going to many, many different communities right across the country. And I always say to them, you know what you need and what you want in your community. And it's not for central government, it's not for local government to tell you what you want. You know yourselves. So it's how we can empower, it's how we can build capacity. And what the project here has done, it has reached out to people that may not normally engage, and that's what we always need to do. We need to widen the pool within the community. We need to get more people involved, and sometimes they leave it to a few leaders in the community, and we need to bring in new life. We need to bring in fresh thinking. We need to involve young people, and I absolutely believe in the bottom-up approach and that community involvement. And what I say to people is the job of central government is to help you and support you realise your vision and your ambition for your area, because every area is different and everybody has their own unique needs, but generally across the board it's not dissimilar, but each one obviously has to tailor the needs of a specific community. Can I just compliment Lara on the community gardens? I love community gardens, and that'll just light a fire within the community. It'll bring people in from all different walks of life, and I just look forward to seeing that up and running, and just to see how people will engage with each other. I love gardening myself, I have to say, but it'll help to build a community, a different type of community in itself. So I just want to compliment her on that.
Well, just one point, a very short point to finish. I mean, the resilience issue, it's tough on communities. Even places like Kiltyclare, I mean, people, we were chatting earlier about Kiltyclare, tremendous industrial history. I mean, the creamery was a huge gig, and I was told for the first time today that Guinness were even doing the bottling in Kiltyclare at one stage. Yet it fell into a decline, and they had to motivate themselves. What can government do at central level to motivate people? I mean, I was at a conference recently where some chap got up, I think tongue-in-cheek, and said tax breaks for volunteers was something to try and encourage people to come back to the table. But you know what the point I'm making? There's only so many people in every community who will roll up the sleeves.
Yeah, well, that's why we have a volunteer strategy. That's why we're trying to engage people, because there are rewards in volunteering, and there are responsibilities too. Like you know, when you put your head above the parapet, there's always going to be people who may criticise, and they may you know, you have to stand there and you have to take that. But I think it's important that we make it clear to people that the rewards far outweigh indeed the challenges, I believe, and it's about getting more people involved. And I think since COVID, we're looking more at quality of life, and people are more engaged with each other, and we have a lot of investment in outdoor recreation, as we call it, the walkways, the play parks, all of these facilities, and that gave people an opportunity to realise what they had on their own doorstep. You got chatting to your neighbour. Sometimes you don't see your neighbours. You don't see them maybe from one Christmas to the next. So we were able to meet in areas, and again, it's about the conversations, and that's what's so important. And as I said, we have all sorts of different funding streams. The local authorities have been very good in terms of engaging with communities, and you have the...
I don't think the funding is a problem at all anymore, by the way. I think it's the time.
Yeah.
I think there's so much funding available. It's incredible. But it's the time issue, isn't it, in terms of people who are busy in their day jobs, family work, and here they have someone from Leader ringing them, can you meet me tonight? How do you keep the resilience of people up on this?
Yeah, I know that, and that's why have been a great advocate for remote working, because time spent in a remote working hub saves you sitting for maybe an hour or two in traffic. It saves that long commute. Again, it's about quality of life for people, and if we can improve their quality of life through different work practices, and of course remote working was the greatest pilot scheme that was a wonderful success during COVID, and has been a game changer for rural Ireland. I want to hold on to that, and I want to make sure that we build on that so people have that bit more time to contribute back to their community.
Thank you very much. Des, do you want to come back in 12 months' time and try it all over again in 12 new communities in the border counties?
I don't want to go anywhere. Yeah, I'd love to be here and stay with it. There's so much work already started, and I think the Minister's absolutely right that there's so much opportunity even in the changes that we've had. So, yeah.
Well, I'm here to ask the hard questions. Gabriel, will you have the funding to do it in 12 months' time?
Well, I'm probably not the one to answer that question, but I would just say I hope we would. You know, genuinely, I think there is huge interest in this new approach.
Is it in Leader, the next Leader package?
Well, what's in the next Leader programme is smart villages, and it's still a bit of an open question how we support the concept of smart village. It's probably a concept, it's still very much a concept, but show us how you're going to do it is really what we're hearing in the Leader companies. We're very up for that, and I think certainly something like Innovating Communities and Design Thinking gives us a little bit of a toolbox. Now, certainly in the border region, I think we've stole a bit of a march on this, maybe on the rest of the country, but in the good principles of Leader, we're happy to share this. On the way in the lobby, you would have seen little booklets that have been developed. They're little go-to guides on design thinking.
Don't give it away too much now. Hold on a little bit first.
Yeah, but look, that's what we do in Leader. We share the learning. We're all here to improve our rural communities right around the country, and indeed right across Europe. There's 3,000 local action groups, and many of them tuned in today.
And they're watching today. Last word to you, Lara. Could you do with a little revisit from the team from Innovating Communities this time next year to enhance the project?
I'd like to thank the Minister and invite her to Dundalk Inclusive Garden when she has time. Thank you for the compliment. Absolutely. I think there's more work to be done. I think there's more engagement to be done, and we need more money.
Ladies and gentlemen, our thanks for our panel. Thank you to Lara, thank you to Gabriel, to Des, and to Minister Humphreys, who's leaving us at this point. Thank you for your time this morning and very much for your contribution. We're going to break. We're a little bit behind on time, but I have a conundrum for you before you go. A little cryptic conundrum, something to think about outside when you're walking around, getting a bit of a comfort break. Those of you involved will enjoy this. So what? We nearly up to 3,000 users registered initially for Innovating Communities. So, answer this question. Which county do you reckon had the most common occurrence of one surname? One surname. And I'm going to help you on this. My wife is an O'Reilly from Cavan, and they are not at the top of the list. There's a clue for you. There's a clue for you. So come back after the break and tell me. We'll just be 10 minutes and we'll start again. Thank you very much. We're looking forward to hearing from the younger generation later on. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on. Next this afternoon, we're going to hear from our programme evaluators, Dr. Brendan O'Keefe and Dr. Karen Keaveney, who will present key findings and learnings of the programme. Then, in this part, we will hear from our second challenger, who's been there and done that, Leah Fairman from Donegal, who's going to present the Innovating Communities Project. What was it called? A recreational corridor for Donegal's heartlands to the coast. Lots of things going on there. Fáilte Ireland are watching that very carefully. We'll also see video clips from project participants and co-trainers in Monaghan and Sligo. So enjoy.
Thanks, everybody. We're delighted to be here today. I'm working with my colleague Brendan O'Keefe. And we were tasked with evaluating the project, and as Gabriel said earlier, we were there from the beginning, and it has been a pleasure. I myself am, as well as being a researcher in rural development, I'm an educator, and I think I've learned a lot from this process itself, as I think we all are this morning. So for today, we are really presenting the preliminary findings of the Innovating Communities evaluation. The evaluation is still ongoing, but will be coming to an end soon. And really, we can only give you a snapshot, but I think all the videos are really showing the case studies and all of the learnings that have been happening. Central to the project are the participants, the co-trainers, and the development and use of new processes. And I think we've got a really good taste and feel for those today. Today, we're just going to set the context very briefly, because a lot of it has been set already. I'm going to explain some of the data sources that we're using for the evaluation. We'll go through a number of the key learnings that we've had, and also then finally we'll end with lessons emerging from the evaluation. So for setting the context, smart villages has been mentioned already, and really while we're at the early stages of smart villages, and we know they're the next stage of leader and rural development, there's still a lot of learning to be done. But regardless of the motivations behind smart villages and regardless of the outcomes, really it is about a people-centred approach, and that digitisation is a tool, not just about an end result. So it's a part of a process where people really are at the centre, and I think it's really obvious from today that Innovating Communities has held that at its heart. Rural social innovation also is really the key to success. And this is a means for realising development and growth and supplementing governmental involvement. Social rural innovation is about building on citizens and entrepreneurs as self-reliant development actors who can take charge of change and development in their own hands. And really, it's the spirit of social innovation is central to rural community development. Really, really importantly, from a lot of the research that is taking place, is that we need more insight into the how, into the mechanisms for rural social innovation. And that's what we're going to talk about today. There was a study from not that long ago from Newmeyer who identified 6 key factors for successful starting points in rural social innovation. And really, we've talked about all of these already this morning. First and foremost, we have participant commitment, and that's understanding we need to engage people, we need to have volunteers, people needing to understand maybe the intensity of what is needed, and always bringing new people in. Then the abilities that they actually bring to the table. What are the skills? We have a lot of people with skills through their professional lives and their own experience that can come to the table, but also what training is needed to build that capacity. The organisational structure is key in terms of, be it the local development company or other organisations, what is actually supporting those community actors. There must be a common vision and working towards a common vision to build consensus. Openness to cooperation is vital. And I think we really saw that in terms of the steps. I think Lara's example was really good for the community garden in terms of how we built up the steps. And finally, very importantly, financial resources. What can the actors bring through their voluntary groups, but also external supports? And I really feel we're seeing all of those 6 steps today in various ways. So, for the evaluation, we have 3 key data sources. You've sort of seen things around the Innovating Communities website or dashboard. And part of the dashboard was that participants would give feedback after lessons. So we have over 1,300 feedbacks, as we call them, that people gave immediately after lessons. We also conducted a survey among the participants, and we got a really good response rate. And also we've conducted participant focus groups, which included some youth and some co-trainers as well. So the end of course survey is really what we're presenting today. All participants were invited to complete it, and thanks, I know many in the audience completed it. It ran over a year. We also, prior to that, did an interim evaluation where we all got the learnings from that and reflected and added to what was happening. We had over 20% response rate in the survey, and we had a really, really good response rate from our youth, our rural youth participants. You can see we had over 60% rural youth respond, and then just under 40% non-youth. I still haven't come up with the right phrase for the non-youth. The survey included questions also that were tailored for the youth groups, and that's been really important. And we had a good gender split. So, I think Des already mentioned the themes, and again, this just exemplifies all the themes and challenges that were addressed, from biodiversity and climate change to innovation, transport. Everything and anything that affects rural lives was addressed in the programme. First of all, we wanted to look at motivation. Why do people get involved and how do they participate? So you can see in the blue, in both pie charts, over 50% of those who participated stuck the course in terms of who responded in our survey. And you'll see over there on the left, the youth participants were even better. We had a really, really good engagement with youth participants, and also a lot that did most of the course. So it's really, really positive. We were really interested to know about how participants heard about the course. And top there is a local development company. And you can see there the LDCs, the word of mouth, and the local community groups were vital to getting people engaged. I think that's a really important lesson for any of us involved in community development. Having the local development company and then the local community groups getting out there, engaged with people and animating people to get involved. And why did people get involved? What motivated them? And this was really interesting because we do capture the rural youth here. And it wasn't just because it was happening in school, I'm happy to see. It was because people had an idea. They were interested in a topic. They wanted to do something for their local community. We all put up our hand, I think, when Des asked the question, did we want to do something for our community? This was the next step. How do you go about it? And also, people wanted to learn about the process, about design thinking. Rural youth, really, really important in this project, and it's great to have some of you here today. We asked very specific questions for the youth participants. So, young people want to be involved. And that last bar chart, the blues are where they agree with statements. And really, what we can see in the survey, and we had over 160 young people fill in the survey, Young people should be involved in developing ideas for their local areas and their local community. And if that's coming through, that is something we need to tap into, and it's evidence to say they want to get involved. Maybe they don't always know how to. And also benefits to them. They could see that, yes, definitely there's a benefit, and yeah, probably there is. But what's interesting there is they're at the early stages of a community involvement. They can see there is something, and really, I think a key lesson for us is we need to get rural youth engaged in rural community development. I'll hand over to Brendan.
Okay. Just to continue the presentation of the survey results, we asked people about the personal benefits and then the impacts that there may be in their communities. So again, if you look at the Likert scales here, the blue indicates agreement. So would people do the course again? You see support for that. And that's notwithstanding the challenges that there were around COVID. And indeed, that's one of the findings from this evaluation is the importance of the face-to-face, but the need for the openness to the blended approach as well. People feel they would be listened to, they want to get more involved in the community. And we've heard references this morning to the importance of volunteerism. So you can see from the evaluation findings here the contributions of the Innovating Communities methodologies to stimulating and to nurturing volunteerism. People's interest in place, and place came through very strongly in the dialogue here as well this morning. And then that generation of ideas, you can see over 70% of people agreeing that participating in the programme has given them ideas for their community, which is very, very strong. Ciaran already mentioned the benefits, so you can see to the left there in terms of the young people, 80% saying yes to some extent, and over on the right-hand side, the adult participants, 90% feeling that there are benefits for their communities. Then we had access, as Ciaran said, to the Jamboard and looking at the various contributions and the various words that are on the Jamboard, and we synthesized them in this word cloud here. And this gives us a great insight into people's experiences and perceptions of design thinking. And you can see the emphasis there on the people, the group, and how that ties in with the whole Smart Villages methodology, the sessions, the training, the engagement, the networking, that sharing of ideas, the discussions, the surveys. Surveys really important in terms of evidence-based decision-making, collecting local data, and that's a theme that really comes forward. Opportunities for places. Yes, you begin with a dialogue around challenge, but soon in the process it becomes much more positive as you look at opportunities and look at the potential of place. And then looking then at the application, where are we going now in terms of design thinking? So you can see here that 70% of people agree that they have new tools, new ways in which they can promote community development. Because community development is hard graft. It needs to be fun, but it also needs to be structured and supported, and there needs to be a process, and design thinking does that. And you can see, well, three-quarters of people agree that it has assisted their group with generating new ideas. So overall, and this is consistent with the messages that we've gotten from the first session here this morning, from the case studies. This is telling very much with the hard data from the evaluation. And again, more evidence here. Looking at what's going to be happening, and people were talking about where will design thinking be in 12 months' time, and we get some insights from the survey results here. So a longer-term impact on innovation. We're better at analysing problems, tackling challenges, addressing those challenges, and indeed innovation. And of course, innovation is one of the 7 specific features of LEADER. So we see here evidence of the LEADER methodology being put into practice and supporting community-led local development across the 6 counties. So just to summarize all of this in one slide, if that's possible, and at least Ciaran and I have the benefit of being able to write up a report so we can expand on these findings. I presume as we were in session this morning, all of you were evaluating. You had your evaluator caps on, whether you were conscious or not of that. It's fair to say, even though it's stating the obvious, design thinking works. It is working. Community development is a hard graft. No project is ever shovel ready unless there's that investment in the people, in the capacity, in the skills, in the training. And of course, once the shovels hit the ground, then all the fun begins again, and you need to keep building capacity, and design thinking makes a contribution to that. We'd also like to acknowledge the courage of the local development companies to be so open and to bring in the evaluators as part of the process, because evaluation is something that people do at the end. But no, in this case, evaluation was built in. And we'd like to think that evaluation has contributed to the learnings. And indeed, when we did our interim evaluation over a year ago, and we did the end of program evaluation now, we see changes, we see improvements, we see that people took those learnings on board, people were listened to. So that's good. You see the importance of ongoing investment in training, animation, capacity building. Those are the bedrocks of Leader. That's what makes Leader distinctive and gives the real added value. The youth dimension, and in Leader, of course, the definition of youth is up to the age of 35. Working with rural youth and Innovating Communities does that. It stimulates volunteerism there. I mentioned in the word cloud earlier on about the local data, about the surveys. The surveys are a way of engaging people who might not come to public meetings, who might not do the course, but can have their say in their community. And those surveys provide local insights, local knowledge that add value and complement the data from official sources, so that you're getting the best of the bottom up and the top down in terms of evidence base. Place matters. There is no such thing as a manual in community development, nor should there ever be, because the approach, the methods, the ways of working need to respect the local geographies. And we saw that from the case studies here this morning. So the local is really important, but sometimes the local benefits from the networking at sub-county, at county level, and indeed at regional level here. So that matters. And we both emphasised the merits of the Leader methodology. This is CLLD. This is community-led local development in practice. So there's a pipeline of projects here that ought to be funded, supported, and implemented, and indeed sustained in the forthcoming Leader programme and indeed subsequently. So, Gnairg Galliv Leshna Togri Galir. Right, good morning.
Christopher Martin. I'm at the school, Patrician High School, Carrickmacross. We were looking at gender inequality in comparison to single-sex schools and mixed schools, to see what was the whole benefit, like if you were more better off socially and academically either in an all-boys school, all-girls school, or a mixed school. I learned a couple of skills throughout it, like we'd done a lot of research skills and like public speaking skills and communication of ideas and generating ideas, which is all really helpful. I think my favourite stage is the whole, like the survey and finding out what everybody else thought and like everybody's opinion on it. Because like we got to go around to a couple of different schools, which wouldn't be something we'd do. Coincidentally enough, as soon as we brought up the issue, the schools started doing a bit more work together, and hopefully it continues.
I'm Faith Murray, and the theme of my project was discrimination. When we started off the design thinking process, we started with empathy or empathise. So we came up with this idea to create a fictional town. So we got big sheets of paper and put them on the floor, and our instructor gave out pictures of people who we then came up with backstories for and characteristics to and all. So we put ourselves in their shoes to see what it's like for them. The solution we came up with was we were going to hold an event at the local football pitch, and it was going to be a multicultural soccer game. So we'd invite people from all walks of life, all different ethnicities and ages and everything to take part in this game. And we knew that not everybody would want to play, so we imagined that we were going to get some fireworks and live music and maybe a pop-up bar or a restaurant or something for a bit of crack. So yeah, that's what we did.
My name is Ciaran Mullooly, and I work for Monaghan Integrated Development under the Social Inclusion Programme. I got involved in the Innovative Communities Programme as I had a background in community development and was really excited about this new initiative. I worked on a number of programmes through Innovative Communities, First was the development of the Slieve Bay Master Plan, and the second one was with a school in Castleblaney in relation to vaping. It was very important there was a link between the training company and the local community and the participants. So the co-trainer provided that valuable link. Being involved in community development for the past 20 years, it is hard to come up with innovative solutions. Sometimes you get bogged down in community meetings and it's hard sometimes to think outside the box. This programme offered the opportunity for communities to come up with innovative solutions for their own area. Slieve Bay is an area of outstanding natural beauty in North Monaghan. The resources into the area has not matched the amenities, and Slieve Bay Partnership developed a plan a number of years back to try to develop the area. I suppose with COVID and different things, it never really got off the ground, but Innovative Communities reinvigorated the whole project in terms of people from the local area with a great level of interest in the project coming together, discussing the issues, and on the back of it, additional funding has been secured to develop the plan further. I think it would be very useful for border counties such as Monaghan to learn from other parts of the country. This could be done in future programmes with new counties coming involved, because sometimes we be consumed by what's happening on the border, around the border, and sometimes in terms of thinking outside the box, we need to involve new people that aren't consumed by this and might be able to come up with innovative solutions.
Hi, I'm Linda Bulger. I'm from County Monaghan. I'm a recent participant on one of the Innovating Communities projects, attracting people to live and work in County Monaghan. The purpose of the course was to generate ideas to create a marketing strategy to encourage people to come to the county, stay, live and work. By design thinking, we as participants learned valuable skills to create, I suppose, people-centred and innovative plans to respond to challenges. Personally, I found the design thinking process very worthwhile and interesting in terms of creativity, such as creating personas, community engagement, and developing Pecha presentations. I found that the trainers on the Innovating Community project were very committed to their roles. They were always very generous with their time or, responding to any queries or questions we had between sessions. If I had to describe the Innovating Communities programme in a couple of words, it would be, first of all, enjoyable, an opportunity to build new connections, with people even at local level who I may not have had any dealings with before. I felt it really helped my own personal development in terms of some of these new tools and skills that I can use going forward in my own role.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Leah Fairman. You can see I'm not a Gallagher, but I am from Donegal. I was the one that got away. Thanks for the opportunity to come along and present our presentation this morning. It's the Balbafé in order to Donegal Town Recreation Corridor. There's one reason why we had that project name. It's because the longest possible project name that you could have. And as you're going to find out, we are a very competitive group, and Monaghan, I can't see you because of the lights, but Monaghan, you were our nemesis. We were chasing you down the whole way. I'm here for three reasons, or three things I'm going to talk to you about. Why Donegal is God's country, not Monaghan. What our project was and what we did, and why Innovating Communities made such a difference to us. So you can see beautiful Donegal there. I'm sure you've all been there and spent time there. Malin Head, the most northerly point in Ireland. Slieve League, the highest sea cliffs in Europe, more beaches that you can shake a stick at. Glenveigh Park, one of the 5 national parks. Wild Ireland, we've got wolves, we've got bears. Who else has got that? But what you can see if you look at this map is you can see a gap here. And that's where we're coming in and starting to address it. We were looking at, I'm from an area just here in Balbafé, and Donegal Town, for anybody who doesn't know it, is just there. So we wanted to look at, I'm going too far ahead. That causes problems, it causes challenges. So if you talk to Fáilte Ireland, they've been very open about on the Wild Atlantic Way, people come as far as Donegal Town, they come up the west coast, and then they'll head back to Dublin on their trip, or to Knock Airport, wherever they're flying out of. You get people come across the Giant's Causeway, the north coast, they'll come as far as Inishowen up here in the north, and then they leave. And what we've got is this kind of area in the middle where tourists and visitors aren't really being drawn into, and therefore we're losing out. We're losing out economically, we're losing out in terms of job creation, their spend, but we also have a gap in terms of the social infrastructure and recreation facilities for local people. What you don't see when you look at that is the map that I see, a little bit of an invisible feature, which is this kind of before the Berlin Wall, before Noah kind of split the Nile, there was this gap in Donegal. Let me explain it in terms of social terms. If you were from Donegal town and you married somebody from Ballbofey, Stranorlar, 40 years later, you'd still be a blow-in. If you're from Stranorlar, well, frankly, you just wouldn't marry somebody from that side. It just wouldn't happen, right? And there's a reason why. So that's that map. You can see Ballbofey, Stranorlar there, Donegal. Right in the middle, you've got this fabulous, I can't see it from my hands, but I was going to ask you to put your hands up if you've driven through the gap. Where else in the world do you get a feature that's just called the gap? Like it's quite an Irish thing. If you look at it here to the right-hand side, what you've got is you can see Slieve League, you can see the Wild Atlantic, the Wild Atlantic Way in front of you. Over to the left, it would be Ben Bulbin and Queen Maeve's tomb. Through the middle here, this is actually, by the way, not many people might know this, but if you went back 450 million years ago, the mountains in Donegal would have been as high as the Himalayas. So what we've got here is kind of the stubs of the Himalayas, which is phenomenal. We've got a geological fault down the middle of the gap. It gets its own little climate change. I drove up from Kerry a few weeks ago, snow in County Clare, nothing. I hit the gap and had a blizzard for the 6 to 7 kilometres through the middle. It's a phenomenal feature. So if you look out that side, that's what you've got. If you look out the other side, you're looking out here to North Inisho, and you can see from Mana, you can see the boardwalk, the Kilka Mountains. But also, if you look at it, what you can see is this great, vast space of nothing in it. So that's what creates a bit of the cultural divide. And it creates an issue around people coming together. So you didn't really, there's also a municipal district divide. You don't really have people working on projects together. I have to say a big thank you to Kate Slevin, by the way, a local photographer who's allowed me to use these photographs. They're amazing. So our idea was to look at a recreation corridor. We thought we were doing great. We came up with this idea on our own, and then we did a bit of research, and we figured it's actually a term that gets used out there. It's a ribbon of corridor. The best way for me to describe a recreation corridor is to think about the Wild Atlantic Way. So you've got the road, and that's important because you need to be able to drive along it. But you've got all these other things that are happening that make people stop, that make people stay, give them things to do. And as the Wild Atlantic Way is developed, that's also really important for the local people. There's things for them to do, extends the shoulder season, keeps jobs and keeps investment and the economy moving in the winter months, especially important in Donegal. So without Innovating Communities, we would not have got together the group that we got. We wouldn't have been able to go out and invite. It would have been a normal call, and Donegal town people or Ballbofey, one or the other would be saying, that's for them over there. We're not getting involved and chatting to that lot. We were really, really excited about the group that came together. So we had community actives, hoteliers, artists, history buffs, you name it. People that never, ever would have got involved in this type of community project felt like this was speaking to them. A lot of them lived locally, even people who lived in that gap area, who felt like they wanted to create a reason for people to come and visit and share their knowledge and their beautiful area. So the first thing we had to do is we had a challenge to come up with the ideas, and we had 2 ideas to start off with. And it was a big challenge for us to move people on from this area. So you'll see along here, there was a project they talked about earlier on the narrow gauge railway. We had a beautiful narrow gauge railway, only stopped running in the 1960s, and there's a very active historical railway group that are trying to reactivate and bring that along. And of course, when you've got a narrow gauge railway path, then the greenway becomes the first thing. But we wanted to talk about this recreation corridor. What else can we bring in, what other experiences can we bring to life in this area? And this is where the competitives came in again. So Des was our coordinator, and Des got stuck in this, or came up with this idea very early. He knew as soon as he mentioned Monaghan, we were like, oh, what are Monaghan doing? So we said we had 2 ideas, and Des was like, Monaghan's got loads of ideas. And we're like, Des, you're back in the wrong team. Absolutely the wrong team, you have no idea. So it gave us a bit of a shake. We came through this idea. We came up with 3 things. So we created an online survey, a website with a survey. We got out and spoke to people in both towns. Ballbofey, Stranorlar, very much a local market town. Donegal town, a fantastic visitor centre. We went out on Sunday afternoons when there's lots of people around, visitors and locals. And this was a little postcard that we sent out to get people involved and drops into local shops. And the survey was on the back and everything. So we wanted to think big, we wanted to think small, we wanted everybody to feel like they were having their input. And I think somebody mentioned, or Paul mentioned on the video earlier, the appreciation that we got from the average person in the street. They didn't want to be involved in the project, but they loved being asked for their ideas, and there were so many ideas. A cable car to the top of Barnes was remarkably consistent in being from the first meeting right to the end, so don't be surprised if the next 10 years you're going through the gap and you see a cable car, and preferably, by the way, with a slide down the other side. That was a key method of getting back down. But look, we also had like the really simple things, shelter for when it rains, more recreational walks. But this is where we started to get excited about the 226 responses. That was from online and from talking to people in the street. This is where you could see, once you get beyond that initial discussion, you get into the real quality. Horse riding, a child who's mad to try fishing. Where do you go to learn fishing if you've got a child who wants to do that? We've got fabulous facilities, adventure-type pursuit area with a climbing wall. So people were grounding it in reality, were grounding it in what they needed and wanted from their own experience. And if you're going to create visitor attractions, they have to be built in that, otherwise they're just a pie-in-the-sky idea and nobody's going to come along. So the next step from the Innovating Communities was to distill that and try it out. I've got 2 minutes left. I've got 10 more minutes to talk. Gosh. Right, can we do better than Monaghan and get it in the 2 minutes? I want to prove that, we also got out and did some work here. I also have to admit that you're going to see a lot of photographs of it raining in Donegal. It's not like that all the time. It's just really unfortunate with photographs. I have to say dedication to the cause here. We brought the dogs out to trial this. So the two ideas that we thought we could really try out was a walk and creating some signage and information and see what the response and feedback we'd get on that. We didn't make it easy. We decided to do a night walk. And the reason why we did a night walk is because it lets people explore familiar areas in a very different way. And if you haven't done one and you get a chance to do a night hike, I definitely recommend it. We created some signage. We created to be visually attractive and at a level that children could engage, but adults would also find interesting. We took that out on our walk with us. We planned our walk. We got loads of people registered. I've got 1 minute left. It was absolutely the worst weather forecast for that weekend than we had ever in Donegal, or in the 12 months before in Donegal. So we postponed it. And we postponed it for 2 weeks. And then it was the second worst storm in Donegal. So we said, sod it, we're going to go anyway. We were planned to be out for about an hour and 15 minutes, and we ended up being for 2 hours. We had so much fun. So we had a bird expert, we had a wildlife expert, we had a train expert, all out on this walk. And God help us, we brought John along. John is brilliant at ghost stories. There is nothing that you want on a night hike when you've got to drive home on your own as somebody telling you ghost stories. But these were my two success stories. These were ladies who'd moved into the area locally. They came out in the wind and the wet and the rain, and they engaged with the signage and everything, and they said, look, we're going to come back next week and we're going to bring our families. And this was literally a stretch of rail with nothing on it. So we realised we're onto gold dust here. We did take some formal feedback as well. We just didn't rely on rain-sodden people. And I'm out of time. Oh my goodness, it's not happening. So where are we up to? We've made so much progress, and I have to say thank you to Des, because without Des, we wouldn't have had a structure and we wouldn't got to where we felt like we had outputs. We did other walks. We did cleanups. We've tied up with the local walking festival. We got involved with the consultation on the Donegal Outdoor Recreation Strategy. That paper is due to be launched soon. I like to think we stimulated a consultation process by the local authority on the Greenway and developing it. We're now working on getting funding for information signage and for developing walking and cycling routes. And this was another picture of people in the rain out on our walking festival. I had to show you this. Look, it doesn't always rain. Beautiful, beautiful green Donegal Gap. So thank you very much to Des. Des, I'm still waiting for the final outcome and whether we beat Monaghan or not. But that's not what it was all about. It was about the process and all of us coming together and doing something for our communities. And I can 1,000,000% say we would not have got to where we got to without Des and without this Innovating Communities project.
My name is Shane Rafferty, and I moved to Ballymote in April 2021. And the reason for my moving here was my wife is originally from the town, and we recently had a young daughter, and we always planned to live in the country down from Dublin. I suppose the title to me of the course really rang true, because even though I had only moved to Ballymote in the preceding 9 months, it definitely resonated with me because of the fact that regeneration was probably necessary. I was looking at it as well in the context of my young daughter, who was 1 at the time, and what future would she have in Ballymote. And what struck me was there was a multitude of people from different backgrounds, whether it be from business, whether it be from community groups, whether it just be new people in the town. Everyone had lots of ideas. We kept kind of going, we felt a little bit that we were perhaps going around in circles. And what we found was the root cause to all of the things we were discussing was there was the absence of a central function in the town, an umbrella organisation that brought everything together. And what we did was we had three sets of stakeholder surveys, one for the existing 25 community groups in the town, which had a list of 10 questions. We tailored then one for the businesses because the business needs were different to that of the community groups. Then we would have done one as well for general members of the public. And that was really, really important because having that extensive stakeholder engagement meant when we did have all that information gathered, it told a very positive story in that Ballymote has a lot going for it, but also that there was things that people really wanted to see change and the priorities were crystal clear on what the needs of the community were. I think it is understanding what members of our community can bring. Knowing what skill sets are in your community is really, really important because if you have a project in mind, it means that you can go and approach them and say, listen, do you have capacity to work on this for the next 6 weeks? I think for us, what's extremely important is people seeing a positive outcome from a project which will use design thinking, that we can then apply it and almost brand it as a positive outcome for the community and how we applied it in telling a story.
My name is Ursula and I'm doing the Bachelor of Arts in Home Economics. It's a course to develop my skills to become a home economist. From doing the design thinking training, I have learned teamwork, to be able to research, communication skills, to help communities and the knowledge to be able to work with them.
My name is Erica. I'm in St. Angela's College in Sligo. I'm studying the Bachelors of Arts in Home Economics. So we do a variety of different modules such as Introduction to Scientific Concepts, the historical perspectives of home economics and childcare. During the design thinking training, I developed a few skills such as learning how to communicate with people and apply different methods towards thinking and how I can help others.
Hello, I'm Eric and I'm studying in St. Angela's in Sligo. I'm studying a Bachelor of Arts in Home Economics. There's a lot of different modules such as research methods and EU legislation, childcare, and the aim of the modules is to help us be able to look at communities and see the problems that families or people may have as individuals and to look at it from a professional way in home economics to try and help them solve their problems. I think the module has helped me enthusiastic way of problem solving, which I don't think I would have got in normal school. I want to do teaching. I think that this skills here, mainly like problem solving or critical thinking, will help me a lot in the future as I want to try and solve all the problems I can.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen, our latest case study, some terrific stuff. Can't let this panel go without a couple of comments and all of that. Anybody surprised about the presentation made by Ciaran about where people heard about the scheme that, okay, we expected leader staff would pass the word, but radio was very low. Local radio was very low, struck me. Way down the bottom. What's wrong with local radio spreading the word? As former head of news in Northern Sound, and I should say that anyway. In terms of the presentation, our thanks to everyone today, but thanks to Leah as well for a bit of another touch of reality. As I'd say, the theoretical side was on that side of the corridor, and the practical side was this side. I love these issues with the weather and deferring. I'll tell you one quick story, Leah. We had a duck swim for charity. You've all probably seen them at some stage. You put the duck in the river and you collect the money, etc., etc. Which way does the River Shannon flows? It rises in County Cavan, goes down to Limerick, so the water should be going north to south through my hometown of Lanesborough in County Longford. On the day of the event, which way was the water going? The other way. A storm So what do? Improvise. The local tobacco club decided they would use their engines to make sure the ducks went the right way down the river. That's how the weather. This is the life we live, Leah, and we do it all the time. But you seem to have the personality to make sure it's a great success. So, ladies and gentlemen, our thanks to Leah Fairman, to Dr. Brendan O'Keefe, and Dr. Karen Keaveney. Now, thank you very much. Due to the fact that some people were ignoring the prompts about finishing up, we've lost your second break, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologise. We're going to have much more fun. We're going to watch, firstly, we're going to watch another video, another case study, a really interesting one this time from Canva. And after that, I'm going to introduce you to our panel, young and old, on Graham Norton's couch here, okay?
My name is Monica Farrelly. I'm from Virginia in County Cavan. It was a training course I did from Innovating Communities. On the subject matter was lake shores and rivers. Because I did it on my own farm here, I designed it from the ideas on the course and I applied them to my own farm. For example, I know where the hills were and I know all the ground around here. I know the river, I'm very familiar with it all and walking along it. I would describe it as getting a group of people together, maybe with separate interests. The experience I've had of it, that they had quite a broad set of interests, and it was trying to gel those people together to try and work them along a path. But very importantly, bringing them all along with you so that everybody feels ownership of the results. There's nothing to be lost by talking to other people and engaging and understanding other communities. I think it broadens our minds and it makes us a lot more tolerant.
My name is John Wilson. I'm currently living in County Cavan. The project I'm talking about today is to develop a walkway along the shores of Loch Ramor, which we're looking at the moment. And the takeaways for me personally, bearing in mind that I'm a semi-retired mechanical engineer and project manager, are that it's good to take a bottom-up approach, and the collaborative view is the best way to look at things, or a good way to look at things. The difference in the approach was the collaborative approach. I'm very focused on having an idea, playing with it for a while till I get it the shape I want. And this process, in the design thinking process that I went through with Innovating Communities, really shone a light on the fact that you get so much more out of the outcome, the final outcome, by letting the journey evolve with the contribution from others. Well, in my opinion, it's the present that shapes the future. And people's perspective in the last number of years with the pandemic that we all experienced and the restrictions it threw up on us, actually threw up huge opportunities for community involvement and for people to appreciate the here and the now, where they're at, looking at the facilities they have, like waterways, parks. And I think what's going to shape the communities in the future is that people now are prepared to put more time into achieving leisure activities. I think for the border communities, there's things to be shared, there's learnings to be had. So we have to all look at the possibilities for solutions. Someone once told me, who was my boss at the time, he says, there are no such thing as problems, there are just opportunities for excellence.
My name's Nicole and I'm from Baleborough Community School. The project we're doing is basically mental health in schools, and we're trying to come up with ways that they can be more identified and made evident, and how it can be helped in a school environment. The skills I've learned is probably trial and error mainly. So you come up with maybe a prototype, and if it doesn't work, you try again, and you empathise with all the problems they have. And it's just trying to find the right thing that would fit for the sort of situation you're in. Being able to choose your own project, or maybe even just having a bit of input in any of the activities we were doing during it, it made us feel more included and just an enjoyable experience. Just we were always happy and we were always laughing and things, we were always feeling included in it.
I'm Connor and I go to Baleborough Community School. Well, our project is about men's mental health, and really the main goal of it for us anyway is to get rid of the stigma. There's a big stigma on it that men can't really talk about it, and they should be all bottled up and kind of man up, but that's what we're trying to get rid of. We're trying to get rid of the stigma and make sure people can express their feelings. Well, our main goal is we created a website so you like can chat to people, and it's kind of good because you're not talking to someone face to face, it's just on a computer, so you can kind of get it all out there without anyone like looking at you or judging at you. So I think it'd be really good if it like happened, came true. Design thinking process helped achieve our outcome. Just like seeing a wall in front of you, like there's other ways around it no matter what. Like you'll always get the job done if you think right.
Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to introduce you to Brendan has stayed on the couch with us this afternoon. I'm going to introduce you to some more of our guests. We have a fireside chat panel coming up for about half an hour, hopefully. No chance to tease out some of the issues from these videos and the reality on the ground as well. So I'm going to invite to the stage our guests. They are Ursula Markey from St Angela's College in Sligo. You might have seen her colleagues a few moments ago. And Fikra Murray, secondary school student from Patrician High School in Carrickmacross. Alongside them, we will have the senior lecturer in the School of Geography, Archaeology and Irish Studies from NUI Galway, Maura Farrell. You're welcome to the stage. Brendan is here, but business owner and course participant Carol Ann McGowan from Kiltyclar, is it? Back to the stage. And we'll be joined by some of our friends from Leo, the CEO of the Sligo Leader Partnership, John Fearick, and Gabriel O'Connell, CEO of Monaghan Integrated Company. You're also welcome back to the stage. Now, we're not totally finished. I think I jumped the queue on one of the videos, so we have one other video we're not going to forget. I think it's the Sligo one that's left, so we'll see that shortly after the chat, and we'll have a chat to say goodbye to our participants. We'll also hear today from Iwona Liswan, who is the EU Project Coordinator for Leader from the Agriculture and Rural Development section at the European Commission. Iwona has been very patient. She's been on the Zoom all morning watching you and listening to you, and she'll have some comments. We look forward to that. She'll be joining us from Brussels via the internet very shortly. And then last but by no means least, we'll have our showreel of Challenger projects. We will see some of the projects, Innovating Community Projects in Sligo as well. So busy time, guys, in terms of what's coming up. Got to go to the students first, immediately, and get an explanation. You all want to know, don't you? The pop-up bar and what everything else he was planning. Fikra Murray, grab a hold of that microphone there and tell us about that great project. What you found the most, well, we know now what you found the most exciting part of the project.
Well, as I said in the video there, the main focus of our project was discrimination, and the idea was, as I said, it was like a sports day sort of almost, where everyone in the community from all walks of life would come together, new people, old people in the community, people who just recently arrived, and the idea was that we'd all come together and celebrate our similarities and differences, and through the medium of sport and discourse. But as I mentioned, I wanted a few things on the side. As you saw my classmate Christopher in the video, he was lined up for the live music, but unfortunately we didn't get to follow through on the pop-up bar, which was what you seemed most excited about anyway. But
I wonder why. But the day itself, the multicultural soccer game, how did it go?
Well, it was a hypothetical idea in its origins anyway, and who knows, maybe we'll follow through on it maybe next year or in the summer, but we haven't actually done it yet as it is.
Very good, we'll be watching that. Ursula, we also saw a glimpse of your colleagues and what you were doing down there. What did you like most about, I suppose, this whole format, the design thinking initiative, the way they've set it up?
I think what I liked most about the design thinking was that it was a new way of looking at problems. You got to look at a problem outside of the box, and got to look at it in a deeper way, so you did. And as a future home economist, it's really important that I have that skill to do that in the future, because I'll have to help individuals and communities and families to look at problems and solve them in different ways.
Yeah, I know St Angela's, it's a terrific centre, but I suppose specifically what skills will you bring forward from what you did over the course of Innovating Communities? What do you think you'll use in future?
I'll definitely use the communication skills. We definitely got a chance to talk to lots of different people and input different people's ideas and come up with a solution that we could use and that worked for our concept.
Very good. Now, you've heard today, we have the research, we have it on the ground, we have the evidence, we have the academic research about the importance of youth. This is the future. You guys are the future. So I'm going to ask you, I suppose, how do you think these projects, this sort of innovating community projects, can make you and other students actually feel empowered or encouraged, Fikra, to get involved in the future?
Well, I think Innovating Communities definitely inspired us as a group in the Patrician High School to tackle the issues that we saw in front of us in our community, and discrimination was at the forefront of our minds because in recent months with what's going on in Ukraine and other things all around the world, there's been a lot of migrants coming to our area from different places, and some people just for economic reasons as well, various backgrounds and reasons for coming here. But I sort of found that people who weren't originally from the area were kind of being lumped in together as the people who are new, kind of, or the immigrants or whatever, and I felt that they were being scapegoated as the cause of some of the problems in our area. And I think that if we all got to know each other a bit better and see each other for what we are, which is just more people, that's all we are, we're the same as each other. So that's really what inspired us to focus on discrimination, and not only different ethnicities and nationalities. Actually, my classmate who's up there, Dennis Megan, was one who brought up the idea of looking at the LGBT community and what they celebrate their that community as a subsection of our own community and celebrate who they are. So yeah, that's definitely what inspired us to.
Was it the first time you were asked to get involved in this? Would you say this gave you the first opportunity to actually get involved in this?
Well, yeah, I think what was really important to me was that I know a lot of the time we're just focusing on books and exams and stuff, but it provided us with an opportunity to sit and think about the issues in our area, and not only what they were, but where we stood on them as individuals and then collectively as a group. So I think that's what was most important to me about the Innovating Communities project.
Brilliant. Same question to you, Ursula. I mean, I suppose this is the issue. What does it do for you in terms of an initiative? What was different and what's so good about it?
I think what was different about it was we got to come up with the problem ourselves. Like, we got to look at our own area, or for example in St Angela's we looked at food waste, and it was such a key concept in our area because we do so much cooking and there is so much food wasted. So it was nice to be able to come up with the problem ourselves and then try and work out a solution for it.
Very good. Okay. We've heard about some of the projects you were involved in. I'm going to just broaden the conversation for a few moments and talk to some of the other people who were involved. We'll tease out how effective this was. Caroline McGowan, as I say, is back with us. Caroline, how did the program impact your decision to start your business?
Well, there's nothing like putting your money where your mouth is. And we had discussed on the programme that, you know, we had a number of derelict buildings in the town, and how could they be utilised, and to encourage startups to actually come to the community itself. And so as week by week it was going on, I was thinking, God, maybe I could do something. So, and again, I have to thank the members of the Community Council here today. They actually allowed me, or afforded me, the opportunity to use a building that wasn't being used. And yeah, it turned into a lovely little business.
So is it Carol Ann Inc. or is it a community initiative?
It's a little bit of both. It's a Carol Ann Inc. supported in no small part by the community.
And the emblems were fabulous. I hadn't seen them until today. Are they still going out the door?
Well, just to put a bit of perspective on it, Kiltyclogher is a tiny, tiny little village with a very small population. And I was given some stats on what was achieved in that first year. And Shopify is a business platform worldwide. And Heartfelt Gifts, which is based in Kiltyclogher, was the top 8% of worldwide Shopify sites.
Need to say more. Absolutely fabulous. Congratulations, and you've led me along, I suppose, to the next issue, which I'm going to bring in more Farrell on this. And I mean, and I'm asking the questions from an independent viewpoint today. Some people might say that what happened to Caroline might be done by another agency. might be done by a different type of training in this country. It might fall into the world of LEOs, for instance. Local enterprise offices may have a role in that. So in what way, Maura, would you say a programme like this, Innovating Community Supporting Projects, is actually bringing more people, including more women, into rural development?
I think it really does. I suppose I came with the idea of talking about women involved in innovating communities and women entrepreneurs within communities. And I suppose when you look at communities, you often have individuals, and those are the entrepreneurs that sometimes can make a very innovative community. And I think I came here thinking about women and talking about how we could get women involved. And I really don't think I need to talk about this in relation to innovating communities. And well done to the group themselves. I think the idea of the inclusivity of women in this has been amazing, and we've seen so many innovative women there within their communities and as individuals, and I think that is hugely important. But it's not the system or the scenario across the country. And indeed across Europe, we have a huge amount of women who are involved in innovation, but their innovation actually often goes really underrepresented, it goes undervalued, it goes undernoticed. And I think when we look at particularly rural areas, we still have quite a strong farming community, even though it's not as strong as it was in the past. But within that farming community, women are the most diversifying group of people within it. But again, they're often very underrepresented when it comes to specific funding, when it comes to challenges of getting finance, when it comes to even simple things like childcare or elderly care. It's often again, a female issue, and it can prevent or it can stop in some way innovative practices within women.
And, you know, in the political scene, we're dealing with that. We have a major new movement in terms of getting women more involved in politics. Are we doing this? Or can we do the same in this area, in rural development and in?
I think we actually can, and I think what we need to do is we need to see more of what we've seen this morning. We need to see these examples, we need to see these videos, because I often do think of within the sporting organisations here in Ireland, we had a campaign a few years ago, and it was, if we can see it, we can be it. And I think that's exactly what I thought of this morning. If women can see it, then they can be it. And I think if they can see what Carol Ann and all of the other people have done here today, I think then they can take the impetus to go ahead themselves and to be it as well.
And the difference, you know, the design aspect of this, you know, is that really critical in this? That the impetus is it's for yourself to get up and do and move on this. You decide the challenge and the challengers.
Absolutely, and I think you talked about that this morning about, you know, volunteerism and people becoming, I suppose, somewhat stale within communities. We've always got this idea of the 20 or 30 or people who have been involved for years and years within the Rural Development Committee. But you've got to think we've got new people moving into areas, like as the young people here suggested, we've got migrants moving in that have fantastic new ideas. We've young people coming up. We've a whole host of people that could now get involved within community development. And this kind of innovative communities, it gives this new kind of bounce to communities. It gives this new kind of vigour, and that's what people need. They need to kind of come
Are they doing it elsewhere in Europe, or are we the first to try this?
I suppose it really is
breaking ground?
Very much so. I think this is very innovative as far as I can see, innovating communities. Again, I suppose it's that thinking. Gabriel himself would have been quite involved in a lot of the European aspects of smart villages, and I think it is a spin of that, which I think is fantastic. I think smart villages is a concept, and it's a concept that you can make what you want of it, just as you guys have done here.
John Virrick is here from Sligo Leader. John, what are the key takeaways and ideas that you're going to bring away from this for future delivery of similar projects? What have you learned from it?
One of the key learnings, Ciaran, I suppose, something that came up earlier on was volunteerism and community development and the difficulty of getting volunteers. And we're just actually after having 11 community engagement events across Sligo, and it came up at every event, volunteers, you know, and the lack of volunteers. But for me, one of the big things in Innovating Communities was that it was like a new breed coming through nearly. You know, you saw Shane Rafferty there, who's up from Sligo, from Ballymote, who's chair of the new community council there in Ballymote. And, you know, I sat in actually on a lot of those sessions, and it was very encouraging to see some of the people who were coming forward. Yes, there was some of the volunteers who had been involved in Tidy Towns and various other groups down through the years, but then there was new people coming forward. Like there was another lady there on it as well who opened a coffee shop next door to her office in Ballymote, and she's from the US, you know. So I mean, it was great to see that and new ideas. And I mean, I suppose, you know, the other thing I think which is really, really so encouraging is, you know, the schools and the contribution that they've made, and St Angela's College in Sligo. It was really brilliant.
I mentioned the blow-in factor earlier, and it's not a joke really, it's a serious point. I find in working in community groups that sometimes it is great to have somebody coming in from outside to a meeting that doesn't have an agenda. Yeah, they don't know anybody. They don't know that your father bought land at an auction behind my father's back in 1928. And as a result, they come with a fresh face, John. Maybe it is a benefit.
Yeah, it is. Well, I think they come in with you know, no preconditions. Like, they're coming in fresh faced, new ideas. They don't know any of the politics or the history that went on, and you know, the two football clubs that might have broken up maybe 20 years ago, and you know, all of those local rivalries, they're all gone. But I mean, some of the projects as well were fascinating. You know, I mean, I think St Angela's one actually, which is one in Sligo, was really good in terms of the food waste, because, you know, again, we know from the bit we know about the new Leader programme, one of the things that's going to be really, really big is the circular economy. So that's something I would really, really take positive out of.
There's a tip to watch out for. Okay, we've talked about the nice stuff and the great stuff. Let's talk about a bit of reality here. Brendan, you were evaluating. So the tough question is, what are the legacy expectations for a project like this? A once-off wonder? It was great for the town, etc. Or are we going to make this into something really meaningful in the future?
I think you owe it to all of the participants, and you owe it to all of the communities to continue this. And I'd go further and say that this should be funded separate to the Leader programme. I think it behoves the department to set aside a pot so that the fund for Innovating Communities is not taking from that diminishing Leader pie. And that's another factor. This is a good return on investment. We need to be investing more in the Leader methodology and in rural community development, because we see the dividends.
So I've got to say this now, because we had a chat about this morning, and Gabriel knows this question is coming. We have a problem, because my understanding is the next Leader programme, the territorial funding will be within the Leader programme funding for your county and all the other counties. So it'll come in the same package. It won't be separate to Leader.
Yeah, in terms of the cooperation measure of Leader, yes, it's our understanding that it is part of the current budgets, county budgets, whereas when we undertook Innovating Communities, it was a national pot, a competitive pot, and you had to put forward your projects. So I suppose, yeah, look, as Brendan alluded there to, there is pressure on the Leader budgets at county level. So projects like this, you know, are not cheap projects. They, as Brendan says, they're big investments in communities. So progressing it further and carrying it to the next stage is subject to funding being available. There is no doubt about that, and that is a challenge. But look at it, if you know, if there's one thing that local development companies are good at, is innovating. And as you alluded to yourself earlier on, there, funding is not always the biggest problem. It's people's ability to take a concept and work with it. You know, for example, in the border region here, we've a new Peace Plus programme coming. You know, there's a call out at the moment for smart towns and villages, which can, you know, do this type of activity as well. So
it's kind of a follow-on, I suppose. There could be a natural follow-on for one of these projects. Go straight on to digital towns or villages, etc.
Yeah, I think the key thing is, you know, Brendan and Ciaran has given us, you know, an insight as to what we think the learning is. We want to see that formalised now in a report, and we want to. It's really important now to look at this, because it's such a new and novel way of engaging communities and engaging cross communities. We really want to just pause for a moment and say, what is the key learning here? What worked really well? What maybe didn't? What can we slim out of a new programme? Because value for money is always a huge issue. But I was really inspired here listening to our young people. And I mean, one of the things that is coming through in the evaluation is the level of engagement of young people in innovating communities. And I know from talking to colleagues across Europe in programs like Leader, Smart Villages, and a go of general European programs, the ability to get young people involved is challenging and has been challenging for some time. And I think what Innovating Communities have done is they've built a bridge between young people, finishing their education and being in school and learning about their communities. And then maybe years down the line, before they ever join a community group, there's a big gap there. So really, we've almost brought community development, and volunteerism into the school level and said, right, guys, you have your say here. What do you envisage for your community going forward?
I suppose there's a tricky, in terms of the development of their life, the problem is they may go away to go to college or leave home, and then the connection is cut with the local community. So I suppose there's a challenge there to see how you can keep them involved.
It is. I mean, that's a challenge for rural communities all the time, that young people can leave and may not return. But at the same time, the world is a very mobile place at the moment. There's young people coming into communities as well, much more than there was, as you said yourself, Ciaran. So, look, I think the opportunities now for new communities, new people returning to come in and design smart communities, smart villages, and the village of the future, I think it's very inspiring.
The word interterritorial is something we don't have at the breakfast table most mornings, I'm sure. And I know some people in Leader who don't like the word at all because it means headaches in terms of putting projects together. But Maura, what are the benefits of an interterritorial project? Why couldn't it have been done region by region, leader company by leader company just as successfully?
I think when you talk about everything we've talked about this morning, you talk about building social capital. Social capital is all about networking. The most progressive communities have good social capital, and really interterritorial community projects, bringing people together, networking the different groups that are there, that builds social capital within those organisations. They can do better work together. Much better work. And I think it is definitely, to me, it's a disappointment that separate fund is not there again this time round, because I think unbelievable projects can come together by people coming together themselves. Of course, there's opportunities European-wide, but I think sometimes I myself would be involved in Horizon projects, so I see plenty of opportunities for this to go forward into the Horizon projects, the peace projects that Gabriel has just spoke about. But I think sometimes when you bring this kind of thinking to those projects, you bring the process, you bring a concept that's wonderful for other people to learn about. But I think for this to actually innovate communities as it is doing now, I think it needs the funding, it needs the interterritorial here within the Irish context, and I think that still needs to happen. I would love to see this going forward again.
I think I feel a political campaign getting underway here. Maybe we get Heather Humphreys back in again. Is she still in the building? Get a chance to go. I'm going to give the last word to Fiachra and Ursula for what they heard about it. Would you do it again?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was really enjoyable to collaborate so closely with all my classmates. I enjoyed the process of working together, and I know individually a lot of us are great at tackling problems, but when you work with 7 or 8 people as I did, and we split into groups in our class, I think you take the best aspect of each person and put them together, it results in a much better outcome overall. So definitely, yeah.
Ursula, you're at a different level in a different educational setting, where you have a focus on exams, career, a little bit further on from Fiachra. So is there a place for that at your level?
I definitely think there's a place for that third level, so there is, because you need to make time for community projects and things like that, because even when you move on to third level, there's still a community there, there's still problems and things that needs to be solved, and yeah, I definitely think it was a very good project, and I would definitely do it again, so I would.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to chat them for another while, but we have a patient guest waiting from Brussels to conclude our proceedings this afternoon. I want your thanks for our panel. And indeed, ladies and gentlemen, as I said earlier on, our next guest is Iwona Listwan. She's the EU Project Coordinator from Leader, from the Agriculture and Rural Development of the European Commission. And I'm delighted to hand over to, by the power of the World Wide Web, to Iwona in Brussels.
Yes, hello, very good afternoon to you. I just will start my slides. Last but not least, probably, I don't know what I can add. I'm sitting here in bureaucracy building just 50 meters from Berlaymont, which is Berlaymont is the center of the European Commission in Brussels. And what can I add to all these wonderful stories and people and energy that you have already brought here? I can promise one thing, I'm going to be very short. What I am going to do today is I'm going to give you a bit of a perspective from Brussels, what is cooking in terms of rural development, and in particular, long-term vision for rural areas at the European level. And you will see you are in it already. Leader, where it is today, and what we are looking for the current programming, or we call it new programming perspective of 2023 to 27, and smart villages. Then I will quickly see how I see your place in it. And maybe, because I fully agree that there's a lot of potential you build, I have to finish with the next steps. I don't know your next steps, but I can tell you what I can see as possible next steps from Brussels. So just a few words of what is cooking in the European, at the European level in terms of rural development. The first thing that had been agreed already 2 years ago, and now it is being implemented, is a big vision for rural areas in 2040. Yes, we all feel a need of transition. That vision had been extremely extensively consulted. We asked thousands of people, and they said what probably you would say, that they need stronger rural areas with young people, services, empowered communities. They need more connected rural areas, both in terms of digital connections, transport and mobility, more resilient rural areas. I heard this word today many times, both in terms of climate and environment, but also socially more inclusive, so that nobody is left behind. That I heard as well today. And more prosperous rural areas for diversification of economic activities, enterprises, and production of sustainable food. And LEADER, which is my baby and you used this methodology a lot, can contribute to all of these objectives. But then the question is, how do we transfer these big words into actual local actions? The next thing that is being cooking, or actually has already cooked, because there was a very big audit of the European Court of Auditors. This is an institution that looks at the correctness of European spending, but not only at correctness, but also at value added and at how the European taxpayers' money is being used. And every 10 years they prepare a big report on LEADER. And now here they said, and that's in the title, LEADER and community local-led development facilitates local engagement, but, and you will be surprised here, its additional benefits are still not sufficiently demonstrated. Well, I think they are demonstrated by your project, but we are struggling a little bit now to demonstrate the added value of LEADER better. We know what the added value is. It is the increase of social capital, the improvement of local governance, but also projects that have certain unique characteristics of results compared to similar projects which could be done without the LEADER approach. And last but not least, LEADER brings the EU closer to the citizen. We say that LEADER brings the EU to the kitchen table. I was very happy to see the kitchen in your presentation today, and a lady that was actually in her kitchen. It is now 2023, and we have a new policy, a new common agricultural policy, which just is beginning, and it will last until 27. It's based on various planning documents, which are called CAP strategic plans, and LEADER is in it. And I can just tell you more or less what the member states are going to use the LEADER for. Of course, we don't know exactly because it will depend on the actual local development strategies. And in some areas, the programs are completely open, but some member states are actually showing their thematic focus. And these are the following areas: diversification of economic activities, short value chains, local food production, rural services, including small infrastructure, social inclusion, social innovation, cultural, social and community life, climate change mitigation, green economy, circular economy, bioeconomy, and heritage. For the first, formally for the first time, LEADER will also contribute to smart village approaches. Yes, it was right. The smart village is now moving from a policy concept to the reality, and it will be up to the local communities to actually fill it in with the reality. So we are now searching to fill in this concept with reality, methodology, and examples. In most, you will see that LEADER is going to fund smart village approaches in many member states, but it's not very clear how exactly. I think we will have to do learning by doing partly on it as well. So in short, just as you had these sensations, and I heard them in a lot of what you were talking about, there is a major shift in economic, social, and digital and environmental paradigms in the rural areas. Rural areas are changing. They are changing as we speak. And the local communities must respond in a new way. But how? Well, your project is an example of such response, where you use the design system approach, putting people in the center. The outcome is really amazing, I have to say. I really spent a lot of time looking and being simply fascinated by the sheer engagement of people, by diversity of ideas, both in terms of school engagement, incorporating LGBTQ communities, projects in the area of environment, in the area of quality of life. Here are some that I managed to find, but I heard today there are many, many more. So how does your project, where can we situate it on a big European agenda? Well, you probably know that it will fit when you look at all the actions, some of them are quite local. They fit all the 4 pillars of the EU long-term vision of rural areas. For prosperous communities, there was some projects in economic development, for more connected and for stronger rural areas. There's also a very clear added value of LEADER approach, which is demonstrated here in a very, I would say, visible way. Social capital building, lots of trust building, energy, relation building, community development, networks, very wide networks amongst stakeholders. And the learning, I could hear learning to think about, learning to compromise, learning to think about joint vision, collective good. This is all about social capital building. Better local governance. It was really amazing that 900 people got trained. They, of course, they will use their skills not only for the community development, but also for their own personal life, which we heard. But they also actually spend 2 hours a week in 10 weeks, so 20 hours a week. That's also their personal time they used for the community good. And what is also important is this local governance is truly rooted in a local need. The need came really from people, and then they got also negotiated. In terms of project quality, you can see that all these projects are very innovative. They enhance the challenging things. They deal with challenges. They are not doing the easy things. Social, environmental, climate change, economic transition, digital transition. So they are valuable. Would they be there without leader approach? That's always a question about the added value. Well, all the participants said clearly not. And the young people are on board. They are being asked and they are being listened. They decide. You manage to engage schools, because it's indeed true what was said, that many member states, when we ask, as it is, the engagement of young people is also on the EU policy agenda. So when we discuss with the member states, many member states say they have difficulties, or even some they say there aren't any young people, but they're there. They are at schools. You just need to find them and go there and ask them. I must say I was also very impressed by the quality of communication, social media, very clear messages, excellent communication, and I think that's also part of the success and the added value of this project. Yes, the method is absolutely transferable to smart village approaches, and you've proven it. I have already spoken to my colleague dealing with smart villages. She participated. She heard some of your examples today. So we hope we will be able to transfer it, because we are looking for concrete methods to actually implement smart village approaches. Next steps. Yeah, I think such a wonderful project must in one way continue, because the human capital and the social capital is already built. So I'm pretty sure some of the actions will continue in one or the other way. What I can see here from Brussels as options is that now our European innovation partnerships, which is an instrument in the CAP, in the Common Agricultural Policy, is not only open to agri-food sector, but also to broader social and environmental subject. This is about cooperation between the communities on various social challenges and researchers. And I think there's been already a mention of it. It's much less theoretical than Horizon. It's actually about implementation, finding ways and implementing them. Definitely share with others in international cooperation. That definitely is an excellent example. Not only in the EU, of course, the EU partners, as you see, a majority of member states will, for example, implement smart villages, but also possibly outside the EU. What strikes me is that there are many non-EU countries like in Western Balkans or Turkey or Moldova or Georgia that are looking how to empower the communities. And what strikes me is that your projects are quite small. They don't require much funding. And in those countries where funding is an issue, I think that method is really a possibility. And we get a lot of interest and they are searching for partners for capacity building and cooperation. Finally, I hope you will feed your results to Smart Village EU pilot project. I've given you a link on Smart Rural 27, and there is a geomapping tool where you can feed your results. I think we can be in touch on that. Share your experience via the CAP network. I'm very happy you learned the approach from Austria. Now you have proven it right. So I hope it can be used by many more member states and local action groups in the EU. And further develop more of your projects, not also as cooperation with other local action groups, but also possibly within your local communities in the CAP plan and in the cohesion policy. I think there is funding there also in your Irish CAP plan. I just wanted to say thank you so much for bringing this power of relations and power of human touch, because that is actually what LEADER is about. So the main point for me is just to say thank you and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Amona, for joining us this afternoon, for being very patient, by the way, for staying, listening to all of our contributions. You said off air that you had a genuine interest, and it's very clear from your comments. You have a specific interest in this project, and we welcome your words of encouragement, and we look forward to the next step. Thank you very much. Thank you. We've almost come to conclusion, ladies and gentlemen. It falls to me at this stage, as Master of Ceremonies, to thank you all for your attendance today. Thank you to the participants who came to the stage, the audience members who are there, the Innovating Community Challengers. You do realise you have a job for life now in your community, I hope you know that. The stakeholders and the trainers. In a few moments, we have one last video just to bid farewell to you, but a couple of very quick stories to bring you to your lunch. We got you back on time for lunch, don't worry about it. We'll network over lunch as well. For a couple of quick stories. Good news for you all, just in. Artificial intelligence will not take your jobs. We had this discussion on Wednesday about a marketing person who said that she was preparing projects that were taking 4 days with her staff. They could now be done in less than 2 days, thanks to artificial intelligence. Well, I can tell you, as somebody who worked in community development, and I've now turned over from being a poacher to being a gamekeeper with a Roscommon Integrated Development Company, they will never find a gadget to read a parish and find out exactly who is the right person who will deliver this project, do it on time, be able to raise the money, lose all their friends by getting them involved in the committee as well, and turn around to raise matching finance, paint their hair, shave their head, swim with the ducks. Artificial intelligence will never write that CV, I can tell you that. I wish you all the very best of luck in the future. I genuinely hope that we'll iron out this issue of funding that's arisen there, and that the funding will be isolated for the successful progression of this course. I look forward to coming back. I haven't been in Castleblaney since we unveiled the statue of Big Tom McBride in 2018. What a great day that was. A man who innovated himself in music as he went along through his career. It was a pleasure for me to be here today. I want to thank the organisers, the 6 leader companies, for the invitation, and wish you a very enjoyable afternoon.
I think Innovative Communities is different because we all got to do like what we wanted, and it wasn't like the teachers were in control, and we got to all say our own opinions. We all got to discuss as like a whole class, and we got to go into teams and just do what we wanted. Like no one like told us what to do. I think I will use design thinking in like college or like even another job. Like I think it's very useful to have, like to know how to do.
I would definitely love to see another project like this in the future for the Leitrim area. There's a lot of energy, it's very well structured, and it gives everyone the opportunity to really think about what are the key stages in a project development, and actually sets out small goals to go and achieve those. This sort of project actually, it brings out and activates people within the community who have the skill set but mightn't necessarily know that there are other people in the area to support them. So I think this sort of project is great for bringing a community together and getting energy to deliver on something that's collective.
I think design thinking could be applied to any kind of a job. I think it could be useful in community service, in really any kind of a job. I don't think there's any specifications to it. I think it can be used anywhere.
Certainly, anyone who's been involved in the course and has stayed through to the end will be aware of, the importance of developing those skills and then using those skills, because they are part of a toolbox in making a project successful. If you've got the right skill set, then there's no reason why anyone who's been involved in it couldn't take those skills that they've developed through the training and use those then to mentor another group in another project.
Subsequent to the course, I did meet one or two of the participants, had a chat with them. One of them I had a big chat with, and yes, I'd say it has actually has improved my friendships with other people. Yes.
Multiple people have been involved, and it's all transparent. And I think that's what's key to this process is having full and open transparency in what we're trying to do, so that it can never be said that people are not clear on what we're doing or what our mandate is. People have had the opportunity to input into our mandate, input into what people want, as opposed to a group saying we think this is what they want without the stakeholder engagement. We have the data from our research that backs up what we're trying to do. So that's really, really important for us.
If I was to use 2 words to describe innovating communities, it would be motivating and inclusive. So in terms of motivation, people come to try to solve problems. Innovating Communities offers people the space to do that, and that can be very motivating for people. In terms of inclusion, everyone gets the chance to air their views or opinions, and this can be very empowering. Innovative Communities is an example of how people can be brought together to look at solutions for a broader region.